Toledo Bend, being brought to you live by PowerPole.
The Bassmaster Elite Series, this is the third stop of this 2017 season, and it's a big one that everyone points to. There's no sugarcoating it. Toledo Bend is super important to all these guys. Just the mental boost of doing well at this place that has so much bass fishing history here, that's such a big place, such a well-respected place, is very, very important to all of our anglers. 51 of them left on this final day. We've taken it down to a cut. Half the field are gone, down the road somewhere, but we got 51 guys keen to do very, very well today, and we're getting ready to see what new surprises Toledo Bend can deal us today. Davey, what did you see yesterday that maybe shook you up a little bit?
Well, the fishing was a little slow yesterday, but Tommy, sometimes we get spoiled sitting here watching these guys because they always seem to catch them really good. I'm encouraged that the wind is coming out of the south today, and I really and truly think the fishing will be much better today.
Let's hear from second place, James Elam.
The plan is just to take it as it comes. I mean, it's Saturday, there's going to be a lot of locals out. Probably going to have to find some new stuff to fish. Late in the day yesterday, I stumbled into some new stuff, so it's just going to be, I'm going to have to go fishing. I mean, I only got 7 bites yesterday. I'm not getting a lot of bites, so I will see what happens.
Day 2 is a little bit tough to restore, but the one thing.
All right, there was James Elam, second place right there. We saw a little brief bit of Jacob Wheeler, who was the leader after day number 1. We followed him around for a good bit yesterday. Some interesting stuff, an interesting approach to this place. And what do you think is the right approach? How many plans should a guy have for day number 3 here, David?
Well, first of all, I love Jacob Wheeler's approach because we have serviced with him a lot yesterday, and we do today.
Service? Yeah, Behi didn't, all them guys didn't have service.
All right, this is some live shots. Fishing already underway, and Jacob Wheeler out there catching them in the shad spawn.
Yeah, he missed this opportunity yesterday. I talked to Jacob after the first day and yesterday, and first day he caught a limit really quick, and that means everything.
5 anyway, 2-pounder. On that side, all the rest of them pound and quarters. 2.5 and a. Well.
We think that's his 4th fish in the boat. We've just been catching a few little glimpses of that as we were waiting to come on air with you today. But Jacob Wheeler, the leader after day number 1, as you say, fell a little short on this particular starting technique for the day, but I think he gets 5 in the boat. He's going to be a holy terror the rest of the day.
Today's shaping up just like his first day when he was leading this event. He caught 5 really early. And this morning, before we came online, we heard him say something, we ain't playing around today. Ooh, we ain't playing. So
good point.
He's backed it up. He's got 4 fish in the boat already. And the sun hasn't even peeked over the horizon yet. This is really, really key because we watched Jacob yesterday start early, and he only caught the 1 fish. He lost a few fish. Then he went out deep cranking, did a lot of different things. He caught a couple of good fish there, but the south wind today, if it doesn't blow too hard, is a 10, maybe even 15-mile-an-hour south wind will help the fishing on Toledo Bend.
His big failing yesterday, he didn't get his limit out there. He may have his limit here within the next 2 or 3 minutes.
Great point.
It's Toledo Bend. You don't know what's coming your way today, and that's a good thing. Toledo Bend is big and full of surprises. We look at our Humminbird. Lay of the Lake, again, Toledo Bend, about 185,000 acres, the largest impoundment inside the state of Texas, one of the largest in the United States. Not a really old lake, just about 5 years older than, Lake Conroe that we were at 2 weeks ago. It's about 50 years old. But boy, in that 50 years, it has built a reputation, Davey.
It has, Tommy. I grew up as a teenager reading Bassmaster magazine. Any information I could get my hands on back then. Larry Nixon, Tommy Martin, Harold Allen, I could go on and on. Just legends of this sport who were guides here, cut their teeth, and it's certainly been a good proving ground for some great fishermen. Every year that I was able to come to Toledo Bend, I certainly enjoyed it. It's a big, big lake, got a lot to offer. You catch fish from the far northern end all the way down to the dam, and you have different kinds of vegetation, a lot of boat docks, a lot of standing timber, just all types of cover, and that's truly what makes this lake so great.
Well, the travel times here will eat into your fishing schedule, that's for sure, if you plan on moving around a lot. But a lot of these guys, I think Brett Height yesterday, we'll talk about him, no travel at all. Just lock in one place, lock one thing in your hand, and go all day. There are different ways to get it done here.
It really is. I'll be surprised if somebody can just lock in like Brett Height's been able to do and catch them every single day, because this lake changes up. This time of year in particular, there's a lot of fish. Like we saw yesterday, some people side fishing, some people fishing offshore, some people fishing in between, as Jacob Wheeler said, and then you got guys that are doing all three, and we're going to see some of that today also.
Fertile waters, Sabine River as it comes down the border between East Texas and Northwest Louisiana, and the Florida strain bass in there is just a perfect combination. We've got some good genetics at work in Toledo Bend, and like you said yesterday, Davey, yes, it has been the past 2 years our #1 Bassmaster lake in the country, but these lakes always cycle up, down, sometimes a lot, sometimes the bumps are little bitty ones.
They do. There's a lot of factors that really play into that. You have a dry weather that gets the lake lower, and the vegetation, it gets clearer, and the vegetation just booms from there, and that's obviously great habitat for the bass. And then also you have the high water, and it gives those fish all this cover, the willow trees, the cypress trees, all you have. It gives those fish habitat in a different way, but it's just a fish factory because it offers so much habitat, and it's just full of bait fish. And the state of Texas, Louisiana, they've really taken care of this place. I was fortunate enough to be in a group of about 15 to 20 anglers last year when we were here to take out thousands of Florida strain bass and release these fingerlings to hopefully be 10-pounders here.
All right, yeah, looking to the future right there. Well, we're going to have a lot of fun breaking down Toledo Bend today. Going to have a lot of great help in the form of Such Mike Sucon for Bassmaster.com. What are you helping us with early today?
Hey, Tommy. Well, we're looking at, Dave, you already hit the weather. The south winds are going to help a lot of guys fish. It only climbed about 7 miles an hour today. It'll get up in the 80s. It started a little warmer today in the 50s. There's another tournament going on. I have verified it. It's a team championship, local guys. There's 33 pre-registered boats, but Aaron Martins did a video, and he said he was worried there may be a 200 to 300 boat tournament.
There's kind of a difference. That's like yesterday we had reports of a bass that was 2 pounds, and then we heard it was 8 pounds, and then it went back to 2 pounds. That's a lot of wiggle room in there.
Plenty of wiggle room.
We'll keep you. I know you're going to stay after that one, Ronnie.
It's a Saturday at Toledo Bend, Tommy. There's going to be people everywhere, but these guys, these 51 separated themselves from the field. They know they can catch them. They're figuring it out as they go. They're changing every day, but these guys are figuring them out. 2 guys who figured them out the best yesterday, James Elam and Casey Ashley, both the only 2 20-pound bags yesterday. We'll see how those 2 guys jump from 2nd to 5th and how they go into the weekend, if they can improve and maybe take that top spot going into Sunday.
All right, Ron Moore and Mike Sucon. Looking forward to great contributions all day long, as per usual. Can't keep our eyes off the screen right now as we watch Jacob Wheeler go to work already today. He's filled his limit.
Yeah, there's nothing better to be sitting here this early in the morning. Well, maybe the one thing be better to be catching fish on a buzzbait there at Toledo Bend, but it's great for us to be able to watch Jacob Wheeler put his limit in the boat so early this morning. This is just like the first one. Like I said, it's playing out like his first day, and it was really, really good.
We had the good fortune to have a little peek at really him landing in that spot and setting up, and the way he set it up for us was absolutely perfect. As we watch his catches throughout this short time in the morning, he stopped a little short of him and just laid it out for us.
Yeah, started out. That's what I'm talking about. Oh my gosh, dang.
He missed a few yesterday and kind of got him behind, but this morning I think that's his only miss. You're just not going to catch every fish that comes up and strikes a buzzbait, but I'm pretty sure he's caught 5 of the 6 this morning. So, and they're not ones necessarily that you hope to weigh in at Toledo Bend, but man, it takes the pressure off of you. He mentioned last night when I talked to him, and then this morning when he was talking to West, that he would rather be the hunter than the hunted. Mm-hmm. And I've had that same mentality in a lot of tournaments. Now, you want to be close enough to be able to close the deal on Sunday, but it means a lot to have a little bit of that pressure off of you, and especially when he's got his limit in the boat this morning so early.
We getting it done today, boys.
Well, he's starting out like a hardcore bounty hunter today, that's for sure.
Getting it done today, boys.
Aggressive and going.
5 anyway, 2-pounder. On that side, all the rest in pound and quarters. 2.5 and a. Well, it done today, boys.
Early in the morning, these shad are up in this grass, this shallow water. They spawn in that grass and also around those cypress trees. And some guys have been able to capitalize on it, but not as many as I thought. A lot of guys have tried, and like I say, it stumped Jacob's toe yesterday. You have to stop at the right spot. You've got about a 45-minute window, maybe an hour, depends on if you have any clouds. Looks like no clouds in the sky there today, maybe off in the horizon just a little bit. But you really have to capitalize on this bite in the first hour of the morning.
You see the sun lighting up the top halves of those tall pines on the bank over there. Once it gets down into the pine straw, your time is running out,
Your time is done. You need to have a plan B, and he certainly did yesterday. He went straight out, deep cranking, and caught some fish doing that yesterday. But it got so calm yesterday, we just didn't have hardly any wind. And you don't see Toledo Bend like that very often, and the fish just don't feed as well when it's like that.
It was just like a Kentucky lake when they quit generating. It was just everything shuts down.
It shuts
or
down.
Cumberland or one of those places like that.
Jamie Hartman did a good job adjusting yesterday with a drop shot, really finessing those fish offshore. One of the few people that we saw doing that, and we'll see if that works for him as well today. In my opinion, the guys that are cranking and power fishing more offshore will be able to catch them today better than they did yesterday.
Again, Jacob Wheeler not getting his limit yesterday. Going from 1st to 7th place, but try to take the top 4, but we got to take here at Toledo Bend. We got to take guys we know we can find with our pictures once in a while, and you know it's a shame we have to do it that way. But if we put a camera with a fellow we never see all day, doesn't do anybody.
Like
any
with
good.
Brett Height yesterday.
Yeah, I'd love to have seen what Brett Height was doing. Such a great angler, doing his thing in his wheelhouse, getting it done.
Throwing that vibrating jig. I could sit here and watch him that whole 8 hours.
Yeah,
but you don't have service, you just don't have it. But we got some guys today that caught the good stringers yesterday. And Jacob Wheeler's already out of the gates doing better than he did yesterday, numbers wise for sure.
What you doing there? Threading a toad on this little accent buzz bait and just pushing it over the head and gives them a little plastic to get after. You know, that's the big thing with that buzz bait is having something. Think about it, when the fish grabs a skirted buzz bait, they don't have anything to grab onto, but when they grab a toad or some soft plastic, they hold on to it a lot longer. So same thing with a buzz bait. If you have like a toad on there, it's gonna, when those fish come up, a lot of times they eat it a lot better because they have something to actually suck in. And that's why I throw that so much, is because that bait is just perfect for getting them fish to actually eat it. And a lot of, if you're having problems hooking up with your buzz baits, this is something, especially that accent one, is just unbelievable. Great for it. All right, we gotta go. We go run over that other stretch. We done caught 5 off that. Go run over that other stretch, catch 2 or 3. We good to go. Good job, Wes.
You too.
Here's some dap. I told you we'd get that jinx out. I mean, like, that one other one wasn't good. That was the best one that bit, of course. Of course, it's like, boom, knocks it up in the air and eats.
The one that bit, you caught one, but there was one.
Oh, blowing up in it? Yeah, it was freaking bacon.
I mean, we talked yesterday quite a bit about how this guy sounds like a 40-year-old veteran. And he talked a little bit about the buzzbait this morning. We'll talk about it more today. But I just heard some more stuff that not a lot of guys know that he explained there about his buzzbait and how the plastic gives the bait the fish the ability to inhale the bait when they come up and open their mouth and it comes in, rather than it just being wire and hook, and that skirt really doesn't draw into the fish's mouth when you're reeling. If it's a jig and it's laying on the bottom, that's fine, but something you're reeling across the surface, there needs to be something there to pull into the fish's mouth, and he was exactly right.
Some substance there. Jacob Wheeler, one of our Rapala 5 live today, as he was yesterday. He was the leader to start yesterday, had a big day on day number 1, 25 pounds and an ounce. Jacob Wheeler got a lot out of him yesterday. It was hard to get pictures from anyone out there, but we had him probably more than anyone else. Casey Ashley with the big day yesterday. Look at that, 23 pounds and 9 ounces. A few people picking this guy as their dark horse. Maybe you're one of them, Davey.
Casey is one of those quiet guys that I know, and because I know him, I talked to him a lot, and he felt real confident coming into this event. And speaking of feeling confident coming into this event, Todd Faircloth lives not far down the road, is always a threat here. You certainly would keep your eye on Todd Faircloth.
I know you talked to him, and he's not lacking for confidence on this day. I think James Elam, if momentum means anything, coming off a fantastic classic, Bassmaster Classic, did very, very well on Lake Conroe. Very few bites, but boy, he caught the right kind, and obviously he did that day number 2 on Toledo Bend. And the man from Lake Oneida area, Syracuse, New York, Jamie Hartman, coming in here, fished here 2.5 weeks in February, does his homework.
He really does.
Serious about this.
He really does, and things have really changed a lot. In the years past, 10 years ago, when you saw guys first year out on the Elite Series, and he was from Lake Oneida, you knew it was going to take him a few years to adjust to the different conditions of standing timber. You certainly don't see any of that up at Lake Oneida. But now you see guys come from different parts of the country, even other countries, and immediately they show that they're versatile, really good fishermen.
All right, we've been fishing about 30 minutes here. We've already seen a full limit, 5 fish caught out there. Let's go Triton on the line, back to the takeoff there. Dave Mercer had just let him go, and now Jacob Wheeler already with a limit out there. Dave Mercer, you must have fired him up somehow or another this morning.
I don't think Jacob Wheeler needs any fuel for his fire. I mean, he is an incredible angler. I mean, it really has been astonishing to watch what he's done. And, yesterday, obviously pretty shocked to see him come short of a limit, because if you watch live, I mean, maybe it was just because he was the only camera we could get working, but it just seemed like he was catching a lot of fish, and he was catching them in different ways. But that's the weirdest thing about this tournament, guys. And I talked to a lot. This is the only time I can remember in the 7 years I've worked for Bass that I've come to an event on day number 2, at the halfway point of this event, and talked to guys and said, are you dialed in now? Do you know what you're doing? I mean, Davey, you'll admit it. I mean, generally by this point, you've got it figured out. Nobody's saying they're dialed in. Even our tournament leader, Jamie Hartman, I said, are you comfortable? He's like, I don't know. I mean, I feel I'm okay, but there's a part of me that knows that it's just so random. I mean, it is, and random is such a weird word to use in this situation, but you see the way those fish are spread out, and a prime example with what Wheeler did, catching them on different depths, different baits, every single fish, and that is what's happening for the most part through our entire field.
One of the scenarios that played through everyone's mind, written in all the publications, was we're going to Toledo Bend. It's this particular week in 2017 going to be a sight fishing bonanza. Dave, it really hasn't quite turned out to be what you call a sight fishing bonanza, right?
No, and I think that's just strictly due to weather. I mean, the year we've had, things are advanced. There wasn't a real winter here. Fish spawned a lot earlier. There's a lot more post-spawn fish here. In a traditional year, we totally would have nailed it. And that's actually why, Linda Curtis Sparks, the host, you talked to her, and she said that's why we wanted the event here this week, because we figured we would have nailed it right on the spawn, would have set all sorts of records. But obviously, this weird year, and every angler can attest to it. I mean, this year has just been bizarre everywhere across the country, and a non-traditional season. But one of the things that I do want to talk to you guys about, I spent quite a bit of time with Jamie Hartman on the dock this morning, and boy, the bass fishing world, it's really cool to see what's happening with him. Jamie literally, we've talked about it. He hostaged everything in his life. And we've talked about these rookies for the last few tournaments, and how a guy like Jacob Wheeler, he's able to salvage his life, hostage his life and just focus on one thing. And Jamie Hartman might be a little bit older, but that's exactly what he did. I mean, he literally took all of his belongings, everything he owned, sold his house, and rented a storage unit. That's right, just like Storage Wars. I mean, maybe we'll find Jamie Hartman's stuff in 30 years from now. Who knows? But he sold, put all his stuff in a storage unit and hit the road. And I asked him, I said, why? Like, how did you do that? What gives you that? And he's like, I had no choice. I literally had no choice. In his opinion, he said, coming to the Elite Series, knowing the level of competition that he's got to compete against, he said they have such an advantage. All those years fishing down here and him being from the north, he said there's such an advantage, and the only way I could compete is to make that kind of commitment. And it's really cool to see this early in his Elite Series career, just the third event. No matter how this shakes out for him this week, he's going to finish with a top 50 here, a great finish here, potentially 2 top 12s in his first 3 events. And look out when we go north, because everybody, when I did research on Jamie Hartman before this, everybody told me he is, once we get up north, get smallmouth bodies of water, he's one you got to look out for. Well, if he rolls up north with some really good points, which looks like he's going to, that may make him a whole lot more scary.
I was reading some of the interview material with Jamie Hartman, Dave, and along those lines, what he's done, as you say, hostage his life, has certainly afforded him the time to practice. That's what he's got. He's rich in time, that's for sure. And he spent 2.5 weeks back here in February, had some fun catching some spawners, but that being back in February, I said, well, I'm glad I got to enjoy that. It'll sure be gone by the time we get there in April. And lo and behold, he starts catching some of these in-betweeners that are playing so big here at Toledo Bend. They're obviously heading up to spawn. I think it took him aback a little bit versus how long the spawn lasts where he's from.
That's why it's so impressive, because he told me, just like you're saying there, Tommy, that he came here with a mindset what these fish would be doing when we're here in the middle of April, and they're not doing that. So although he came and learned the lake, he really didn't practice for what's happening here this week. And for him to adjust, he said, I had a terrible practice. I tried to make those fish be where I thought they should be from my research and my pre-fishing, but they weren't. So I'm just junk fishing, he said. And I told him when he said that going in the first day, I said, well, I've actually won a couple tournaments junk fishing. It's not such a bad thing. He said, well, I just don't know. I don't feel good about it, but he's got to be feeling pretty good about it this morning.
Yeah, and we talk about Jamie Hartman like he just landed at the bus station downtown in Manny there and started fishing, but he's this is his first year on the Elite Series, but he's got a good record of making checks for a couple of 3 years leading up to this right here. That's also, Dave, led him to the decision to go all in with us, and he's kind of a unique leader that we have today.
Definitely, and one of the things, guys, that seems to be coming startlingly obvious to me is if you look at all the tournaments we've covered this year, and Dave, I'll ask you, is this a transition time in the Bassmaster Elite Series? We'll talk about the commitment that a Wheeler will make and a Hartman will make with all this pre-fish, but one of the reasons that they're able to fish as well as they are and fly by the seat of their pants in this situation, Jamie Hartman and Davey, I'm sure you will agree with this, the more time you spend on the water, you are so much better than that. And if you don't believe that, think about this. Think about your tournament season. You're watching this, you fish tournaments. Think of how you fish the first day you fish in the year and how you fish at the end of the year. Your instincts and how you think and your movements, they become a lot quicker. You don't even stop to think about them. And the more time you spend on the water, whether these guys are doing that well just because they're putting in that much research, I think that's part of it, but I think a lot of it has to do with they're just spending an incredible amount of time in the water, and they are firing like end of season. Their senses are firing like it's the end of the season, and it's just the third stop of the year. So I think that is a big thing we're seeing this year.
I totally agree with you, Dave. You can't replace time on the water with the Carhartt College Series and all the high school tournaments we have now. Kids are getting more access through social media, through Bassmaster Live, whatever. They're getting a lot of good information. But what we saw with Jacob Wheeler yesterday, he spent a lot of time on the water. What you see with Jamie Hartman, you just know when you see the way he casts and you see he picks up a spinning rod and he skips it under a dock 20 or 30 feet. When you see him pick up a big crankbait, he throws it like you see KVD throw it. That takes just a lot of time on the water.
Guys, something I want to get in with. Maybe not. This is not the time. Yeah, go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
You see that in their body language too. When you're covering these guys, when somebody's firing, when we've seen the runs with Aaron, we've seen it with Kevin, we've seen it, with Gerald last year. Gerald's a prime example. I mean, coming off his worst season ever. If you take footage from the year previous, you see Swindle doing an awful lot of this, standing around. I mean, remember we talked about it, the Angler of the Year, when he had his first stumble of the year, hand on the hip, an awful lot of stopping and thinking. When these guys are firing in all cylinders, just like any other sport, you don't see a lot of stopping and head scratching because they know their next move. It's just natural. It's just, I'm going from this to this. They don't stop. They don't think about it. They're just fishing on instinct and ability, and that's when they're the most lethal.
We have been watching Jacob Wheeler doing his fishing yesterday. That's the way he started yesterday with the buzzbait out there. We're going to keep on taking a look at that as he gets set up in the new place where he's going to land, hopefully within our vision here. And Dave and Davey, there's something I want to get into you guys. I don't know if this is the right time to do it, but Such was talking about the 300 boat tournament going out today. When you go to a place like Guntersville, a place like Toledo Bend, the bass fishing culture, I mean, you got a large population of people who come out here, take their bass fishing very seriously. Some of them fish 325 days a year. They're out there with our Bassmaster elite anglers who are doing it. I mean, ego's a thing. I mean, a lot of these guys know that are convinced that they can just join right in the tournament and win it if called upon to do so. And it makes for a little scratchiness out there in the water. It's not a perfect situation.
It's not, Tommy, and I want to hear Dave's opinion on this, but it's just something that we heard James Elam talk about this morning. You have to have that on your mind. You have to have a plan for that because we're on public water. You hope that the first 10 boats of that local tournament didn't start on the same place that you fished yesterday, but you have to have that mindset because it's just another thing that we have to deal with as tournament anglers.
Definitely, and it's also something that people will game plan around. I mean, I've talked to several anglers that said they haven't gone to stuff that they were saving for this weekend. They went to stuff that they knew anglers were going to be getting pounded here today. I mean, this lake, you hear a 300 boat tournament in a lot of parts of the world, that's a big tournament. That is not even a big tournament here. I mean, this is a body of water that has 3,000 boat tournaments, several 1,500 boat tournaments. This lake, we heard the other day that normally by this time of year they've had 38 tournaments, 48 tournaments. They're over 100 tournaments already at this point of the year. So this lake, it takes an incredible amount of pressure, and that's what makes it more impressive. Not the weights that you see. It's the pressure that this lake continually has. But there's going to be a lot more pressure in this lake because anybody that's been to this venue, I mean, you drive down a long road out to a peninsula and everybody's going towards this venue. But today, I mean, on the way to takeoff, I passed 10 or 15 boats going the other direction. So I'm sure they were heading to that tournament. But one of the things I do want to say with the pressure on this lake, I spent a bunch of time this week with different guides and local people, and you've heard several of our anglers mention it. And Toledo Bend is truly an incredible body of water, but it only gets that way and stays that way with good management. Because of the light that has been shined on this body of water the last number of years, and because of the popularity of this lake, it is getting more and more pressure. So I am going to plead to everybody on behalf of the guides that have talked to me. One of the issues that's happening, I mean, we had several anglers mention on stage, when you go to a lot of these boat ramps, you see an awful lot of bass heads in the water from people eating fish. And there's nothing wrong with eating fish. You can go get yourself a meal. But the guides here would like to share the message. They've got a little saying. They say, if it's over 3, let it be. Eat the smaller fish. There is way too many giant fish. And those fish, those 8-pounders, and look at Jason Christie's fish, was a 10-pounder, was caught a year later, just a year and a day and 2 days later, he caught that fish. So catch and release works, but it doesn't work. If you throw it in the grease, I mean, you can never catch them again.
Good point right there. Well, Dave, I want you to promise me not to clean any fish over 3 pounds today and not send out any more tournaments. Send no more tournaments out from Cypress Bend if you'll just be with us on that right there. Well, Dave, thank you so much. Great stuff, and we're going to be leaning on you as always today. I know you've got some good stuff planned for later on, right? Yeah, we're going to go, I think we're going tailgating with Dave.
We are. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing Dave Mercer tailgate with some locals today.
Yeah, that's right. Eating 3-pounders and less. That's
Start it, baby. Yeah.
Keeper limit for Jacob Wheeler this morning. and lucky enough to see those pictures and watch an entire limit get caught in the space of about, I would say, 17 minutes.
This is what he did on day one when he led this event. He started off, he got him a limit. I don't think he ended up weighing any of those fish, but it means everything. He put a trolling motor down this morning, and first thing he said, we ain't playing today. And he backed it up. He's got a limit of probably 10, 11 pounds in the boat already.
Started 3 pounds behind the leader, and didn't take him long to map out about a 4+ pound lead over second place James Elam. Hoping to see him and all the rest as we get further into our day here on Toledo Bend, day number 3, this Bassmaster Elite Series, event 3.
The Bassmaster Elite at Toledo Bend is brought to you by Berkley, Hook, Humminbird, Mercury, Minn Kota, and by Nitro Boats.
Facts matter. All monofilament is not the same. Berkley is the strongest, smoothest, most dependable monofilament line in the world. Why would you risk your fishing trip to a line that's made who knows where just to save a buck? Berkley has been making and perfecting trilene in America for over 75 years. I spool nothing less than the best. That's Berkley trilene, and that is a fact.
Champions aren't born, they're created. Every turn of the prop, every mile on the lake, every cast of the rod, every fish they catch, and every pound they weigh. It builds who they are. It builds a legacy.
For your 2016 Bassmaster Angler of the Year!
Hey, thanks, Dave. Out of office?
Oh, man.
Hi, this is Skeet.
Out of office?
Dude, don't be mad because I thought of it.
What?
I gotta go. I got someone on the line.
Go to teamgtfishing.com to check out my real job.
We're supposed to be working. I am working.
Is there a place where the underwater images are the clearest you've ever seen? We're seeing every fish, we're seeing every detail of structure, and where every bottom contour was visible, where whatever you wanted to see below the surface was real. Do you want to go? Structure Scan 3D is the future of fishing. We can show you how to find fish faster and catch fish in a way you've never experienced. Let's get them.
You know they're sitting up there.
There we go. 27 pounds, 4 ounces.
Yeah! Yes! That spot just happens to be one of those special places.
The biggest bag of the tournament on Championship Sunday.
Yes! Yes!
Good things happen yesterday afternoon.
How about it? How about it? Yes, sir!
I'm in shock. I can't believe it.
You're watching the Bassmaster Elite at Toledo Bend, being brought to you live by Power Pole.
Day number 3, Bassmaster Elites. We're going to take it down to 12 anglers today. It is critical to be in that top 12. That's the only way you can grab that trophy. At the end of the day, the TH Marine Weather Watch, we've talked a little bit about it so far. The climb up to around 80 degrees today. It was a little bit warmer overnight than it has been before. It's down in the 40s, I think, the first day of this tournament. South wind, 9 miles an hour. That's a nice round number, Davey. You mentioned that that's almost ideal temperatures. And Sunday, not a whole lot different, maybe even a little bit warmer for these guys.
Yeah, it's going to be a little warmer, but the key here is the south wind. Yesterday we had the wind predominantly out of north, northwest, but the south wind and those mile per hours at 9 and 12, that's great on Toledo Bend. It's hard to fish there at Toledo Bend when it's blowing 25, 30 like it did in practice. You can't get around. It's almost impossible to fish offshore. But like we saw yesterday, when this lake calms down, it gets just as tough. So perfect conditions for today and tomorrow, in my opinion.
Well, as we look at the way our anglers we're trying to watch today lay out, we've got Jamie Hartman, the farthest south, closest to the dam there. Elam, Faircloth, not too far north of that. Jacob Wheeler not straying far from Cypress Bend, and our farthest north angler, Casey Ashley, who had the best day of all yesterday.
He did, and he moved around a little bit. We saw earlier this morning he started south of takeoff, which surprised me because I thought he was fishing north. He has moved north, hopefully to his best spot, and hopefully we'll have some service here with him because he sounded very, very confident when I talked to him last night.
A lake this long, 65, 70 miles long, this big, 10 miles wide. I mean, obviously it's going to be possibly at different stages. You laid that out for us pretty nice yesterday about how your thoughts on what stage each part of the lake is in.
Yep, I really felt like coming into this tournament that if you fished offshore, if you were cranking, throwing a jig offshore, you'd be better off going a little north, which has been different than what we've seen in years previous. The thing that surprised me yesterday with the calm winds, not as many fish caught sight fishing as I thought.
Here's Jacob Wheeler, our leader now with his limit already in the boat. We see Todd Faircloth's added a fish there as well. Got to be a pretty good one as well, keeping pace with Wheeler. Faircloth coming from third place to start this
like one more cast after this. We're going to slide back over to that place. We're going to run about, oh, that's a good one, dude. Don't do it, you sucker. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 2.5 pounder. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Get down. Look at that. That's the way you want them hooked right there. A game changer buzzbait action. Oh, little accent buzzbait. Put him on this side. Put a, if we can just get one more decent bite, man, we could have a decent bag. Starting off a couple 2.5 pounders and a 2 pounder. Let's see here. Let's go with option numero uno. There you go. I thought it was a big one when it bit it, because it made a freaking, like I hooked it and it took off like crazy, but it's up there in like inches of water.
Getting it done today. Obviously, he's got his limit early. I still can't believe he didn't catch that 5th fish yesterday.
That's right.
He's fishing so good.
What a difference a day makes. I mean, the exact same spot where he started yesterday's where he caught that great one right there.
The one thing I noticed, he started on the west side this morning. Yesterday, he started over here on this east side. And he still got low light over here. He went over there on the other side, caught his 4 or 5 fish, comes back and the sun was getting up on it. He mentioned 45 minutes and it's over. Came over to this other side. You can tell he's shaded a little better there and catching fish on this side. Plus it let it settle down. He's right there around the takeoff.
Yeah.
And only 51 boats stirring the water up there this morning versus 110 yesterday.
Something to be said for that. Yeah, he's on the east side. The sun will light that one up last this morning.
And timing is so crucial with this. As I said, it's usually about 45 minutes to an hour window to take. But if you manage which side of the lake, if you found some fish on both sides that are feeding on these shad, then it's smarter to fish the west side and then come back to the east side because those trees are shading the sun.
Let it bite right there. Yeah, they were all, it's like it was big, wasn't it? Yeah. Wes goes, yep. Wasn't a bitty bitty. But he's probably just slid out a ways already.
when I talked to Jacob last night, and then we heard him say it this morning, he'd rather be the hunter than the hunted. And Such, you asked me, is that really true? And I've already got a question this morning here, just came over my phone. Would you really rather try to sneak up on a win or lead from start to finish? Well, there's certainly something to be said for a guy that leads from start to finish, because it's so hard to do with this kind of competition. But I agree with Jacob Wheeler. I always like to come up and keep grinding through the field and being there on the final day. Now, 51st place is not where you prefer to be today.
It's a handicapped hunter right there.
Yeah, he's hunting with a spear. So you want to be in contention, but I always prefer to, just like Jacob Wheeler said, I like to climb. And in my career, I only held the lead one time in a Bassmaster tournament in 23 years that I didn't win. So that tells you I didn't lead very much early on. I was able to climb, and it always felt better to climb that ladder.
Is it an attitude?
Gosh dang.
One thing that's interesting was we saw Gerald Swindle do that all last year. He climbed every day. He was never one of those guys that was in the top 5 after day 1. He always worked his way to the top 12.
The other side of that, with Bassmaster Live and us covering normally the top 4 or 5, in this case a little different because of service. It doesn't do us any good to cover somebody with no service, even if they are in 3rd place. But what he's able to do here with his sponsors on his jersey, his boat, his motor, his trolling motor, his rods and reels, that means a lot for his sponsors, who will be there for him, hopefully, when he's not leading an event, when you have a tough tournament
which will inevitably happen.
So it's a great opportunity, if you are leading like he was going into yesterday, to have the camera on him for much of the day.
Never hooked you or nothing. Huh.
Somebody asked that yesterday, if him telling all his little sneaky holes, sneak tricks, is going to help his marketability with all these folks and his profile with B.A.S.S. How much will it help?
I know I was loving it yesterday.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were. Yet, you know, when you hear something that varies from the same old, you're naturally going to start, at least perk up your ears and start listening.
Yeah. And he's doing it again today. You talked about the buzz bait, why he's got that plastic trailer on there instead of a skirt.
Yeah.
To help the fish be able to inhale the bait better.
I was going to try to pick up a few of those bass before they head into the shad spawn there, the first thing this morning, before the sun even got close to being up. It was all stuff you didn't hear before.
For some reason, and I have to say I was guilty of this myself, bass fishermen like to keep secrets.
I know you.
3/4 to 3 pounds.
Offered your opinion on this world of secrets more than one time, and it's very interesting. I don't think we can talk about that enough.
Huh. I hate them suckers.
Bass Track just had Randy Howell upgrading his limit to near 10 pounds. He'll be climbing maybe the 3rd. Davey, there's 30 guys within 9.5, 10 pounds of the lead. Do you think you can see another Jordan Lee type comeback this weekend?
That's a good question, and I thought about Jordan Lee when you headed there, because at the Classic, I drew a line. If you were more than 10 pounds back, you don't have a chance. Jordan Lee was more than 10 pounds back, and came back in a big way. So I hate to go out on a limb there and say anybody's out of this thing. What was he, 13, almost 14 pounds back?
13, 14.
Yep, almost 14 pounds back, and did
15th place.
In one day. Here you have 2 days, so certainly you could come back from more than 10 pounds.
Your comeback, your first part one of your comeback is going to have to include being in the top 12 rather than the top 25 to go into the final day. So there you got that hurdle to cross.
And normally the rule of thumb is from past writers and people in the industry have said, take the big fish from the tournament, and if you're within that margin, whatever the big fish weighed for the week, if you're within that margin, you can make that up, because we see that that's a catchable fish this week, that size. But at Conroe, at Toledo Bend, you know, you can catch bigger than a 9-pound 10-ouncer or a 9-pound 12-ouncer. So,
well, given that logic, we got everybody who's in the current top 12 with a shot if this were the final day.
Yep.
And who knows? I mean, we got I think day 3 last 2 weeks ago. We had Jordan Lee in about 15th or 16th place. Today we got Matt Lee in about 15th or 16th place.
Wow.
Here it'll go to 34th if you're looking 9 pounds 10 ounces down. About John Murray down in 34th place. He would have bust. You know, they had a log photo of Jason Williamson going out with giving 2 fingers. He says, "No, it's not peace. It's I want 2 10-pounders today."
No. How am I supposed to know that?
I didn't know that. They had to explain it.
You're the only reason I know that.
See Brent Ayler creeping up the leaderboard in 12th place.
Yes.
A guy that had a great event, led 2 of the 3 days of the Bassmaster Classic. Ended up not closing the deal. I mean, how can you close the deal when you have Jordan Lee catch the stringer that he had? Brent Ayler certainly had a great tournament.
Hey Rob, make sure you hit that number 2 soft button.
Had Attifo leave the door open on the AOI yesterday by falling to 41st. James Elam climbed within 4 points of his 280 lead, and Jason Williamson's right there, and Hackney and Christie are tied at 271, only 9 points back. It's tightened up considerably.
It's getting a little juicy. We'll run that down more in depth a little bit later on this morning.
I bet he's going to make a move here in just a few more casts. That sun's getting up even on this side of the lake now. Well, I hope we got good service with him when he does go offshore, because he caught a couple fish, really nice fish, and lost a giant yesterday morning. Just a little after this time when he went out there, started throwing a crankbait and a spoon, a hair jig.
I think you're still there, aren't we?
Yeah, I think you need a 9 iron.
Still about a 9 iron would be all right.
Get out of nowhere.
Crack. I don't want to scare him too much today, but scare him a little. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be so far behind like Jordan Lee, but I'd like to be like right there. Yeah, like pound and a half, pound. Yeah, pound would be good. After today, we need to be about a pound out.
if we remember, that's what he did at Cherokee. Jesse Wiggins looked like he was going to be a stalwart going through the whole entire day, and he was just a pound or so behind, and he ended up beating Jesse by about 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds on that final day, and won, and took the title. It's
an interesting conversation. If you remember Dave Lefebvre at the Classic, he went fishing where he thought that he could get bites in practice. The last couple hours at the Classic, it turned out not to work out very good for him. Still can't believe he didn't get the bites on that final day. But what Jacob is saying here,
we're not going far.
Like I said, I've certainly done that. The year I won the Bassmaster Classic, the first day, I quit fishing my area at lunchtime. The first day, because I knew I had researched the body of water, and I thought, man, I'm going to be right there. I'm going to be close. Got lucky, and I was in third place, but I was just ounces away from the leader. Exactly where you want to be. Yeah. Exactly where you want to be.
Hartman took the lead. He's posted, did you guys see that? A 6.5 pounder.
Oh, wow.
Things are popping out there today. You see Jacob Wheeler not still very close to, you can see the Cypress Bend Golf Course in the background there, his last spot. That's only about a mile or so from the takeoff.
It looks like he's going over on the other side, just like he did yesterday. And I think we'll see some action here. What he's doing, it looks like there's another angler there close, and he's making sure it's okay for him to pull up relatively close to him. No, he's going to fish the bank a little bit more. Yeah, you see that boat there to the left? That's courteous.
Yeah.
He just...
I was saying all right because we just heard what just happened here. We're bringing some Casey Ashley
That's
into the
great.
picture. I like seeing that.
That's great.
Biggest stringer yesterday, second biggest of the tournament.
And seemed really confident when I talked to him
Did he?
yesterday that he's catching fish a few different ways, but caught fish up in the day when we saw not many guys yesterday afternoon able to catch fish with or without camp. There, he's setting the hook now. Looks like a good one too. Well, a little too fast now.
Number 2 of the day. Not very big, but we will take it.
Changed up a little bit this morning. He told me that I'm gonna start out with the old spinnerbait. Spinnerbait, big blade, he said.
I'm on the place where I caught the bulk of my fish yesterday, and I knew there was a bunch of bait out here. I can mark them. So I didn't catch these fish yesterday till like 1:30. And this morning, the shad are spawning. They're all sitting up way up high in the trees. I was catching them yesterday on the jig. I just can't get that to work this morning, so keep flipping back and forth between the jerk bait and the spinner bait. Caught both of the fish so far on the spinner bait, but they don't want it. I can't figure out the deal. I guess yesterday the sun had just come out and pushed them down. I could catch them on the jig better, so it may be a better deal later in the day. But I know there's some big ones out here. Pound and a half.
Bet you we go down that stretch again. Maybe catch one. I wouldn't doubt we go down that stretch again. I'll caught that 2 3/4 and catch one in that shade. All right, let's ride.
You say he clued you into the spinnerbait yesterday?
He did. He was talking there this morning, just now after he caught that fish, that he caught his fish yesterday on a bait on the bottom, not a spinnerbait. But early morning, low light, these shad, they'll even spawn offshore, especially in a place like Toledo Bend that has this timber offshore. Something hard up close to the surface. But this time of year when the sun comes out, those shad go down. There's other times when they come up, but this time of year they go down, and that's when I think he'll really make his hay using a bait on the bottom, a jig or whatever he might be using. Maybe a jig, he's an old Carolina boy. But
yeah.
But when they're up, he mentioned about he's tried a jerk bait, he's tried a few other things, but he just hadn't figured out what he could. Ooh, I think he may have figured something out.
He was too little to even worry about.
It's breakfast time, you know, breakfast time around here could mean Yamaha Taste the Bait. What's the name of the bait that Jacob Wheeler told us about?
He's throwing a buzz bait, accent buzz bait, didn't he say?
Accent buzz bait. Accent game changer buzz bait. And he clued us into why it works.
The red and the toad on this little accent buzz bait, and pushing it over the head and gives them a little plastic to get after. You know, that's the big thing with that buzz bait is having something. Think about it, when the fish grabs a skirted buzz bait, they don't have anything to grab onto, but when they grab a toad or some soft plastic, they hold on to it a lot longer. So same thing with a buzz bait. If you have like a toad on there, it's going, when those fish come up, a lot of times they eat it a lot better because they have something to actually suck in. And that's why I throw that so much, is because that bait is just perfect for getting them fish to actually eat it. And a lot of, you know, if you're having problems hooking up with your buzz baits, this is something, especially that accent one, is just unbelievable. Great for it.
Couldn't agree with him more. We heard a lot of good stuff from Jacob Wheeler yesterday, and he didn't give us a buzzbait seminar. He did on crankbait and a hair jig and that sort of thing. But gave us some good info, some really good info.
Start it, baby. Yeah. Start it out.
He's
That's
not
what
even
I'm talking about.
Not even using a trailer hook on this bait because those fish can inhale. He mentioned grab, but they inhale that bait. They open their mouth and displace water, and it won't come in the mouth. And when you've just got a skirt and the hook, even with just a skirt and a trailer hook, the bait doesn't come in the fish's mouth as well.
So put a little meat on there.
Put a little meat on there.
All right.
Yep. I do the same thing with a spinnerbait.
Yeah.
If I want a trailer to add some vibration or thump, then I'll use one that has that. But if I don't want it, I always at least add plastic to it, a straight trailer that just gives it that little bit of bulk for the fish to inhale it.
Mixed results in the first hour for Jacob Wheeler yesterday, and you see it right there laid out for you. Great limit in the boat very, very quickly inside of 20 minutes, and then upgrading at this point.
Toledo Bend, throwing a buzz bait at the crack of dawn. Doesn't get any better than that, does it, Tom?
That's like everybody's dream, isn't it? Right there. Jacob Wheeler had regained his lead with that limit right there, but now we understand Jamie Hartman with a 6-pound plus 6.5 pounder has taken his lead back over again. Boy, it's getting tight. The plot's thickening in here.
Here's two guys to watch out for.
Absolutely. Elam, Todd Faircloth. Geico Bassmaster Classic. Well, that was 2 weeks ago, just down the road at Lake Conroe, Texas. And on the final day, Jordan Lee making the biggest comeback of all time. The history of the Geico Bassmaster Classic. One spot. It was a story. You got to see it to believe it, and you will get to see all the details of that story. What actually happened out there on the water on Conroe that final day. Jordan Lee the other guys who were shooting for that title, world champion. Jordan Lee's the man who wound up on top. You'll see it Sunday, April 15th, Sunday, April 16th, Saturday, April 15th on ESPN2.
Man, it's slow today.
Yep.
Mom, I caught a fish.
Good job, sweetie.
Hey, what kind of lure is that?
It's a Livingston. They have electronic bait fish sounds that activate as soon as they hit the water. Easiest way to catch a fish.
Hey, thanks.
The competition is fierce and the prizes are huge. The only thing missing is you. Fantasy Fishing presented by Toyota. Sign up for free and face fans from across the nation. Grand prize winner receives a Triton Yamaha package, including a Triton 189 TRX. MSRP of $37,293. The classic and each individual elite event winner will receive $2,500 Bass Pro Shops gift cards, with the runner-up receiving a GoPro Hero 4 Black camera. Sign up and pick your team today at Bassmasterfantasy.com.
You know that feeling you get when you save money on parts without having to jump through any hoops, track points, or make a bunch of extra trips to the store? Yeah, that's the one. Introducing Speed Perks from Advance Auto Parts, a rewards program for guys who love getting under the hood. No cards, no points, no nonsense.
You're watching the Bassmaster Elite at Toledo Bend, being brought to you live by Power Pole.
Well, New York's Jamie Hartman started the day with the lead. He lost it quickly to Jacob Wheeler, who caught an early limit, and Jamie Hartman roaring back with what is reported as a 6.5-pound bass. We got a camera with Jamie Hartman. We haven't seen him yet, and of course yesterday was on up in the day before we actually got him in range, so sure wish I'd been there to see the big one.
Yep.
There he is right down there, not too far from the dam. We're going to go for Jamie Hartman at the bottom end of Lake, Sabine River, and on up our northernmost covered angler today, Casey Ashley. This is moments ago.
Better fish there. That's what I'm talking about right there, baby. Bassmaster live. Better tag him too, because we might get the cull out. He ain't a 3-pounder, but he's close. At least we got him going now.
I think Casey has figured something out. He didn't think with those, even though he had 2 in the boat earlier with that spinnerbait, he didn't think he had it quite figured out. If you pay attention to where that fish had that spinnerbait, all the way in, it's eating it. We saw with the crankbaits yesterday, the guys that did catch those couple good fish on the crankbait, they were outside the mouth, having to pull little tricks out of the bag to get those fish to bite. When you see a fish eat a bait like that, especially a spinnerbait, I'm gonna keep throwing it for a little while. That's for sure. And keep in mind, I don't think he's doing his plan A yet. This is just plan B until the sun gets up. Casey's not one that, when he sounds confident and feels confident, and you can hear it in his voice, and he says, I do feel pretty good, he's not joking around.
He's not bluffing.
No, he's not.
Casey did mention something earlier that's good for all of us to keep in mind is actually what's under that water there. I mean, this is, again, a pretty new lake, 50 years old. It's just like the rest of the countryside here. It's forest, woods, and an old home place.
Feels like it's calming down the wind.
And that's exactly what he's fishing, Tommy. He's fishing those trees.
They ain't big, but we'll take them. You gotta get to 5 to start with, and then you can start upgrading.
That's 4 for him? 4. Fourth fish of the day. Looking good.
I'm on the place where I caught them yesterday, but I didn't catch them till 1:30 or so was when I got here. I was catching them on a football jig. They're just all out here on this big flat, scattered in this wood, but I was marking a lot of bait. I figured I could come out here this morning and catch them on the shad spawn. And I mean, it is loaded. Baits out here everywhere. Took me a long time to figure out a little sweet spot and what to throw. But I've caught 4 so far. Lost one, missed another one. They're sitting way up high in these trees. I can't get them to bite my jig yet. Caught one right off the bat on a spinnerbait. And worked the whole area and just couldn't get them to fire on it. But this seems to be the place. But they're not on bottom, they're suspended up high in these trees.
Good day like yesterday, and Casey hopes today as well gets him closer and closer to his primary objective for 2017, and that's make the Classic.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Classic is where he won it when it was there 2 years ago.
I asked him a couple months ago, I know you're loving the Classics going back to Hartwell, and the first thing he said, I got to make it first, D-Height. So
let's get our stuff.
Certainly making a move here. Doing well, and I certainly expect to see him fishing tomorrow. That'll be some valuable points.
Ooh, yeah.
With Lake Hartwell in mind for next year's Classic.
All I'm catching right now are the little ones. I hadn't had a good one yet. Pound and a half.
So we got a new name on the leaderboard down there, Cliff Payson. He just upgraded again. He started 18th today, so I wonder how many guys are going to be able to climb into that top 12 that weren't in there, because there's some sharks swimming behind our top 12 right now.
Oh, absolutely. Defoe, Hackney, Matt Lee, Dave Lefebvre. Yeah, it's there's no reason to feel comfortable anywhere on this leaderboard.
No, it sure is.
Gotta try it. They're set up perfect for the jerkbait. I just can't get them to eat it.
Interesting thing here, we've been able to watch Jacob and Casey primarily this morning. They're both around a lot of bait. And most of the time, other than if you're sight fishing, obviously it's not a factor, but when you're just fishing, being around bait is the biggest key. The other thing, bait and cover, because if bait's just suspended out over the main river, the main lake, the fish, largemouth bass in particular, don't like to just be out and roam. Stripers, and there's other fish that will do that. But bait and cover are key, and you had Jacob Wheeler fishing this shoreline grass where those shad are. But just looking at this, I like Casey's deal. He's around a lot of bait. He mentioned that a couple times. And these fish are spawning out on this timber a little deeper. With Jacob's fish along the shore in 45 minutes, an hour or so, those shad pull off and it's done.
Yeah.
With Casey, those shad just go down, and it sounds like yesterday is when he made his hay, fishing a jig, fishing down. So the fish aren't moving in and out as much. They're just going up and down in the water column, which makes them a whole lot easier to stay with throughout the day.
Casey Ashley, the Geico Bassmaster Classic champ from 2015. Hard to believe it was mentioned it was his 8th Classic he was fishing last time. Okay, he doesn't seem like he's been around. That time goes by fast, and Casey's been passing the time being a really, really top performer on the Bassmaster Elite Series. Take a look at his B.A.S.S. wins there. I remember that one. Doesn't seem that long ago, Smith Mountain Lake, but it was a decade ago.
Oh, geez, it sure was. But Casey did look like, he really looked like a high school kid when he came out here.
Oh, boy, did he ever.
Young-looking guy. He still looks young. That's what makes you think that, hey, he's one of those guys that's just been out here 2 or 3 years, but he's been out here a decade.
Boy, it's hard to believe. Let's take a look at his catches so far today. Kind of picking up where he left off yesterday.
Throwing a spinner bait, and I mentioned earlier catching him on a buzz bait, he can't get much better. I love that distinct thump you get when you're slow rolling a spinner bait.
Number 2 of the day. Not very big, but we will take it.
There again, you see just one piece of wood sticking up out of the water, but there's a whole forest down there.
Like we say, all this area, first part of the last century, was just little cotton fields and home places and mostly woods, and that's what's down there now.
I'm guessing the was he really liked the way he saw that fish ate that bait. It's a nicer fish.
There, buddy. Bassmaster live. Better tag him too, because we might get the cull out.
He obviously likes what's happening here, and I like hearing he's saying he caught him here all day yesterday, because we can see him here. It's all to our benefit, that's for sure.
They ain't big, but we'll take them.
I'll have to admit, not trying to be biased and pull for any one person, but I'm leaning towards the guys that have service.
Yeah,
and we can watch.
We can't help but root for that.
Casey Ashley's going to keep catching them.
Ashley rolled
He's in at the weigh-in yesterday with his 23-pound plus limit of fish. Casey Ashley, big move on day number 2.
Rockets all the way into the top 5, currently in 4th place with 36 pounds, 12 ounces. And the way that for Phoenix Boats Big Bass, not going to take that over, but wow, what a rally. What changed out there in a day where so many anglers it got tougher for?
Well, the good thing about me is I would never own anything. So yesterday I just scrambled around and caught what I caught, and I told you, I love coming here. This is probably my 2nd favorite lake that I've ever fished. And, you know, I just kept moving, kept trying, kept searching, and I stumbled on a little deal today. And, you know, a lot of times when you fish a tournament, you have those days when nothing goes right. Well, today everything went right. So it was just one of them days. But I did get in an area that's got a lot of fish in it, I think, and I'm looking forward to getting back to it.
I bet. Look out. Casey Ashley may be that guy that has figured him out that we keep talking about.
Very, very interesting there.
Yeah.
You can tell the body language. I could hear it in his voice for sure.
That's right.
Look at Jason Christie. He just filled his limit. It's small. It's under 10 pounds, but he's right back in the mix.
For those that weren't watching yesterday, we talked about the shallow water fish, the shad spawn, and then other guys just fishing the bank like Jason Christie. And then the offshore deal that we saw Jacob Wheeler, and I know multiple guys are doing that. Casey is in that in-between area here with the standing timber, and that's where the larger number of fish should be at Toledo Bend right now, in between. They're hard to pinpoint because there's so much of that in between. When you go out there to those deep ledge fish, you follow those contour lines, and even though the water's deeper, there's a small area that those fish get on, and that's why you really want to try to find those fish when they get there, because they gang up on certain small spots. Well, they spread out on these flats. They're a little harder to find, but when you find them and there's bait there, there's cover, it's the right depth for this time of year, I understand why he sounded confident at weigh-in yesterday.
I know what's going to happen when I do this, but I got to try it.
Jerkbait didn't last long. We'll see how long.
He said, I know what's going to happen when I do this, but I got to try it. He's thinking he's going to get hung. There's so much wood down there.
He gets a discount. It's okay.
Yeah. Probably knows a guy.
Yeah, knows a guy. Who knows a guy?
He mentioned, I know what's going to happen. I'm assuming he thinks that he's probably going to get hung. One thing I would throw out there, you see a lot of anglers. He's catching his fish in this timber on this wood. If they do pick up a crankbait in this situation and think that I might get hung, they don't throw into the wood or the cover. They throw outside, inside it, outside it, left or right, whatever you might have, and you're not going to catch as many fish. So don't be afraid. He said, I know what's going to happen. He's going to throw right in that wood and hopefully not get hung very often. But people that avoid that cover because they're throwing a crankbait certainly won't catch many fish.
No. Talking about Casey Ashley needing to keep Toyota Bassmaster Angler of the Year would be a good thing to keep in mind this year, making the classic at his home lake there. He's 13th place right now, so looking pretty darn good. Of course, he's done a lot of polishing on that position here at Toledo Bend.
He sure has.
Take a look at the points as they stand, updated each day on this Bassmaster Elite Series. Defo had a much bigger lead yesterday. He kind of went down in the 40s, and as you say, Ronnie, opening the door a little bit for the likes of James Elam to pull within 4 points. Jason Williamson right behind him, just a point behind. Hackney, look out, running up behind those guys.
What's interesting in the standings, though, is Ott's leads is only trimmed to 4 points. Obviously, it changes every single day, but he's in 41st, and James Elam's in 2nd. So James can't pass him, theoretically, by moving up. Ott would have to fall, and Ott's got a lot of room to move up. And as we've seen right now, unofficially on Bass Track, Ott's moved up to 15th place today already. He's got about 4 fish for 9 pounds, so he's caught a couple quick ones, jumped up the standings there. So Ott's in 15th unofficially, probably gonna, be moving up today. We wouldn't expect him to drop from 42nd on. Elam, as we said, is 2nd place. He's got 1 fish in the boat right now, 2 pounds. Jason Williamson, interesting thing about Jason Williamson, he caught a 7-pound, 10-ounce fish yesterday, almost the big bass of yesterday's day. He caught that in the last 20 minutes, and that got him fishing to today. got him in 33rd place overall after day 2, and he's got 1 fish in the box right now. As we go down the list, we got some heavy hitters. Greg Hackney, Jason Christie, you mentioned those guys. Both of them were in the top 10 coming into today, and both of them have a couple fish in the boat right now. Jason Christie's in the top 3. So
big fish played big in Jason Christie's rise as well.
For sure, Jason Christie.
1,
yeah, that 9-10 is a big time key in the influx of the standings every day. We see so much change, but we see Ott Defoe staying consistent. Quiet. He did great at Cherokee, one of his home lake by far. Almost won the Okeechobee event, and then here he's doing well again. So Ott Defoe's going to be hard to beat because we saw last year. He was very, very consistent at the end of the season. Struggled at the beginning, but made up all that ground to make the Classic. We saw how good he did at the Classic this year. So, Ott's one of those guys that's consistent everywhere we go. Smallmouth, largemouth, in the north and the south.
Each event this year, we've had some surprising low finishes as well in each tournament. At some point during the day, we'll examine some of those and some of the guys who were just about close the door on making the Classic in one way or another. It's I hate to get into that stuff. That's part of the story, and we'll talk about that later, man.
Yeah, and one thing that's interesting while we're on the points is that
big tree right there, I caught a 6-pounder out of yesterday.
One thing that's interesting is the Rookie of the Year standings. We talked about how many rookies have made the cut each of the first couple events. 7 at Cherokee, 6 yesterday, or 6 at Okeechobee. We only have 3 rookies in the top 51 this week. It's going to be a big shakeup in those standings.
Ooh, there's only 2 up on top.
Hammered it. No, hammered it. Must be white bass.
Casey said just a second ago, there's a big tree right there where I caught a 6-pounder yesterday. We talk about fishing in this forest and scattered wood, but when you see a guy, especially one of these elite guys, fishing in this stuff, they know where the big trees are, where the little ditches and the difference in contour, that sort of thing. It's more than just throwing out there and hope you come across a tree. They really figure out how the trees lay and where they are and where the big ones are versus the smaller one. The fish tend to like those bigger trees for a couple reasons. A larger diameter, but when you have a lake like this where you've got flooded timber, where the creeks were, where the drains were, along those edges where those bigger trees, the dominant trees would be, because they have more water and the runoff, the silt, the fertile soil. So you've got 2 things. You've got a larger tree that will attract those fish, and you also have got a little bit of contour change. On a flat like this, it may only be a foot, but that can be a whole lot.
Jacob Wheeler in a place that looks very similar to where he was about this time yesterday.
I'm hoping he
does
what he did yesterday.
It'd be a lot of fun.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
We still high. You're not sure? Well, that ain't no good. But you don't feel like we are right now?
Tell him he is. I think he was going to talk to us a little bit there.
Tell him he's live?
Yep.
A new face to the top 12 so far, Cliff Pace. Limit for about 11 pounds so far. Looks to be the biggest limit almost. No, Ott Defoe has an 11.3 bag, but Cliff Pace with 11.1 jumps in the top 12. If we remember back when Brent Chapman won in 2012, Cliff Pace finished second to him. So Cliff Pace has done very well at Toledo Bend. He's not far, you know, he's from Mississippi, but, you know, some of his sponsor companies are from Louisiana, so he spends a lot of time over here, it seems.
Both of them kind of worked over the same area at certain points during the day when Chapman won his. And here, Ian Pace.
You got to watch out for it, Ross Barnett.
Oh boy, for sure.
Yeah, back out here on the sweet spot. Hey, quit fighting them. Let them rest for a minute.
Been a while since you fished Ross Barnett, hadn't it?
You know, I've never fished there.
Oh, I thought you fished the FLW there, the one that Clun won.
No, I didn't fish that event.
You were not doing that one, okay.
That was the year I just fished like 3 or 4 of the FLW events. Yeah. Never been there.
That was a year or 2 later you came down to shoot the wounded and take the trophy away. In the FLW.
Yep. Actually, when I saw it on the schedule for this year, I was looking forward to fishing it because this is a place that bucket list kind of place you've heard about for all your life, and then plans changed. I'm sitting here now.
That's right, Dale. Well, that's to our benefit for sure.
Happy to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I get asked a lot about the change, and I've enjoyed working with y'all.
Well, good.
I promise you that being around you guys as professional and as good as you are was a big thing in my decision, because I thought, well, I know I'm not going to be very good, but if I hang around with good guys, I've kind of, my whole life, I think if you surround yourself with good people and just lean on them a little bit, things will work out okay.
We tell you a lot about what not to do, I'll tell you that. That's part of an education right there.
Come on.
Well, if you can survive yesterday, I think we've had more live cameras up today than yesterday, it seems, or at least time-wise.
Now
if you can survive
done it, Ronnie. You've jinxed us completely. Thanks. Way to go.
We only need to wait 5 more minutes.
I'm feeling good about today because that south wind's going to help the fishing. The coverage is better.
Yep.
Really like what I'm hearing Casey Ashley say about the bait and the cover, and figured this place out late yesterday, so he hadn't been hammering on it real hard.
No doubt it has been a livelier morning, I think, for us for sure, for what we've been able to see so far today. Let's take a look back at what we've seen. Casey Ashley in a place that he thinks a lot of, David.
He really does. I talked to him last night, and Casey doesn't sound like this very often. It's not like every tournament he acts like he thinks he's going to win, but he's very confident.
On this spot yesterday, Jacob Wheeler having mixed results, trying to work that shad spawn. A little bit better action today.
That's what you want to put.
Hey, we got some Dick CPEC tires and wheels. You know what I'm talking about. A trivia question. Bassmaster Elite Series trivia. Here's the question. In the closest of the 4 elites on Toledo Bend, by how much did Dean Rojas edge Gerald Swindle in 2011? Was it 1 ounce, 2, 6, or 9?
Davey knows. He knows.
I know.
I'm DQing myself because I know, so I
may have been there.
All of us who've researched this recently
all
should
our
know.
Viewers at home, chew on that one a little bit. Hey, if you want to respond to us, get a question in. Where do you go, Mike Toucan?
Hashtag Bass Live.
All right. If you're not tweeting, where do you go?
You can go to our Bass page on Facebook.
The Facebook page. Okay, good deal. All right. Send them in. We got one of the best minds sitting right here. Try to answer your questions. We'll be back to Toledo Bend.
Facts matter. All monofilament is not the same. Berkeley is the strongest, smoothest, most dependable monofilament line in the world. Why would you risk your fishing trip to a line that's made who knows where just to save a buck? Berkeley has been making and perfecting trilene in America for over 75 years. I spool nothing less than the best. That's Berkeley trilene, and that is a fact.
Champions aren't born, they're created. Every turn of the prop, every mile on the lake, every cast of the rod, every fish they catch, and every pound they weigh. It builds who they are. it builds a legacy.
Now for your 2016 Bassmaster Angler of the Year.
Tennessee, how's everybody doing today? We are excited to get this season kicked off. It all starts here.
Barely hooked, dude. Barely hooked. Yes! Yeah! That's what I'm talking about. Stay down, stay down. Stay down. Open your mouth, open your mouth. Yes! Thank you. Yeah! That's a big one. That's for you, Mama. How about that right there now? Woo! Yes! Yes! Yes!
Bassmaster Elite Series champion, Jacob Wheeler.
Bassmaster Elite second event for 2017 at legendary Lake Okeechobee. So much tradition here and so many amazing eye-popping results.
Yeah, buddy's right. Yes! Yes! Give me some high five on that. Yes. Take a closer look at that one. I ain't never flipped a fish that big before, I don't think. Woo! Stay hooked.
What is this meeting about again?
Fishing. Took my boat, boom, jumped over it, and I caught a giant. It was like a whale.
29 pounds, baby!
That's the last time I danced on stage.
Chief Fishing Officer.
How do I get that job?
I don't know. Go to teamgtfishing.com to find out more about my real job.
Is there a place where the underwater images are the clearest you've ever seen? We're seeing every fish, we're seeing every detail of structure, and where every bottom contour was visible, where whatever you wanted to see below the surface was real. Do you want to go? Structure Scan 3D is the future of fishing. We can show you how to find fish faster and catch fish in a way you've never experienced. Let's get them.
You know they're sitting up there.
There we go.
27 pounds, 4 ounces.
Yeah.
Yes. That spot just happens to be one of those special places. The biggest bag of the tournament on Championship Sunday.
Yes. Yes.
Good things happen yesterday afternoon.
How about it? How about it? Yes, sir.
I'm in shock. I can't believe it.
You're watching the Bassmaster Elite at Toledo Bend, being brought to you live by Power Pole.
Bassmaster Live, an hour and a half under our belt so far. We got a full 6 hours altogether today that we are happy to bring you. A little bit happier today than we were yesterday, getting some better pictures from off the lake. It's just a kind of luck of the draw thing where the guys wind up and where they start fishing gives us our pictures or doesn't. But today, fingers crossed, we're doing good. We had a good Dick Peck Tires and Wheels Bassmaster Elite Series trivia for you to end our last segment. Here's the answer. Let's go to that answer right now. What are you saying, Davey? I think you know the answer to that one.
We'll say A.
A. 1 ounce did Dean Rojas beat Gerald Swindle back in 2011, right at the final fish weighed in. I'm with you on that. Here we go. Let's see if we're right. We remember that. Rats, we do. We were both standing there.
Gerald Swindle hasn't quite won an Elite Series tournament yet, but he certainly came within 1 ounce. I think he's been within 1 or 2 ounces several times.
Oh, many times. It's just almost freakish how that has worked out for Gerald Swindle, but he's got a couple of Toyota Bassmaster Angler of the Year trophies.
Yeah, I'd take those any day of the week over one win.
Yeah, those beat one win. Those trump one win, they should say.
Cliff Pace running across the lake there. He's made a move this morning.
Absolutely. One of the big movers on this day number 3 when we have 51 anglers out on the water, and they're all hoping to make it into that top 12 because, again, we're in a place where you can catch a big one and move way up the leaderboard. Here's that win. Here's that moment right there. These guys knew how close they were. Oh, my God. We got to watch it one more time.
Oh, yeah, got to see this, Tommy.
Yep,
Here we go.
Right.
Here we go.
Mr. Apollo right there. Got it going on. Dean Rojas loves this place. That's not his only win on Toledo Bend. He's an East Texas fanatic. This guy from Arizona can really fish and really catch them here.
A lot of fans knew that one and tweeted back at us.
I bet they did.
You remember those kind. I mean, you could tell by Dean's reaction there, and even Gerald's. I've been on both ends of it. Those close ones are the fun ones,
yeah,
especially if you come out on that top side. But boy, those seconds aren't any fun. I've been there.
Well, and one interesting note about that 2011 Toledo Bend event that Dean won, that's the closest event time-wise, for Elite Series competition that we've been here. April 14th through the 17th back in 2011 was when they went there. Took 70 pounds and 15 ounces. So,
as Mike Sukhan said right before we went to break, send in your questions. We'd love to take a look at your questions, answer them if we can. Hashtag Bass Live. Send them in.
I like those good questions. That's fun.
Man, I enjoy that too. You learn so much.
In between watching these two guys,
whom we have learned a lot from. Hey, both of them.
I knew that wouldn't take long.
We used to fish derby back at the house. And you can call out
We just need a little change in angle to be able to pick up that audio from Jacob Wheeler. I know he was laying out some more good stuff for us there, or just
stand tall. Stand tall.
Yeah, man, this is what I caught him on yesterday, but I just know you can't hardly throw it out there. Too much crap in the water.
Both Hartman and Faircloth only have 2 fish, so lots of room.
Jamie Hartman seemed to have a 1-2 punch. He started every morning that we've been with him back in the back of that creek and then seems to move out later in the day, and he's been catching fish both places. So I know we've talked about these other guys, how we like their chances. I really like what I see Casey doing and Jacob and talking to Todd Faircloth, all that, but you got to give the leader credit. He's hanging in there strong.
Absolutely. Yeah, we didn't pick him up yesterday till he went out and camped out in the boat lane, basically.
A 300 boat tournament, I don't think they've taken off yet. We haven't seen a whole lot of traffic out here.
I would think we'd hear some noise of something like that. Everywhere on the lake if it's 300 boats.
I think there's a few guys that realize they could just spread that rumor, and it really messes with some folks' heads.
I don't know how many. It'd be much easier to count the tournaments where we have not heard that there's going to be a 300 boat tournament taking off on a Saturday morning out here. We hear it every time. Those phantom tournaments are hard to nail down.
Now, these Texas tournaments do get huge now. We were at a college event in January at Sam Rayburn, and there was a 400 boat tournament that took off, and it really impacted the guys who ended up winning. They actually were like fishing with 4 boats on top of them on that spot, and they still caught 28 pounds. So these Texas guys bring it when they come and fish tournaments, and Louisiana.
Our buddy Bob Seeley runs allegedly, many times, the biggest tournament in the world here.
Yeah. Another month from now, and they're going to award those replica bass that the Toledo Lake Association gives to people who catch a 10-pound plus fish there.
All right.
Gave 139 out last year. Dave Mansu was among them. I did a little note on him.
No kidding.
Got a question from Chris Witten. He's asking about Casey being there. Would using a big square bill get more reaction strikes for him with the bass suspended in the trees?
That's a good question, and I haven't thought about that. But when I saw it, and obviously I can't tell exactly how deep this is. I don't think he's out as deep as what Jacob is fishing when he goes offshore. But when he did pick up a crankbait a few minutes ago, I couldn't tell what kind it was. But looking at the bill, he's fishing a little deeper than I thought he was. I think he's fishing 10 to 15, looking at and I didn't get a good look at it. I really try to pay attention to that sort of thing. I think it might be a little too deep to throw a big square bill. Early in the morning, when he was catching those fish this morning on the spinnerbait and he said they were up high, then certainly that might be a good option. I'll be curious to talk to Casey tonight, hopefully making the top 12, and I'll ask him about it. He could have done that this morning. We weren't with him for the first hour or so.
Right.
So I know he loves to throw a square bill. I can't imagine he hasn't given that a try. The other thing that's interesting, with all this wood, Casey said he had caught his fish on a football jig. Me personally, if I'm throwing in wood, would not throw a football jig. It sounds like maybe he's found a hard spot. At Toledo Bend, you don't find many rocks, but if you find some hard bottom, it can be a key area that fish might load up during the day. That might be what we see him doing later in the day.
Freaking Carolina rig. That's stooping low. Drop shot's not as bad because you actually see them. It's like a visual thing. You ain't just.
Going to leave that pair right now. Give you sort of a layout here on Toledo Bend. James Elam has moved out of a place where he had started earlier. Now we were able to pick him up. James Elam starting the day in second place now. Get going with the man from Oklahoma.
Well, I really enjoyed watching him 2 weeks ago at the Classic. He showed a lot of poise. He lost a big fish that last day. first thing in the morning, and that you could tell it bothered him, but he stayed poised
and found something different than anyone else.
He really did.
To his credit.
A fan also tweeted in, I don't know if we mentioned this, I don't think we have, but that year that Rojas beat Swindle by 1 ounce, Swindle ended up having a penalty for having a dead fish.
Work. I think that's a keeper. Hope. It's a keeper. It's a keeper. It's hard to catch one of those sometimes.
It looks a little similar the way James is fishing here. A little offshore, not way out at the Classic. He fished basically the same way. Looks like he's fishing a gliding creature type bait here, and at Classic it was
final day of the Bassmaster Classic. And James Elam, who sometimes was not even getting but 4 keeper bites a day, every bite was so precious to him, and this was early on day number 3. Watch what happens here.
And a real good one.
Ooh.
A lot of guys would break stuff at that point right there.
Oh my gosh.
And as young as he is, that's good to watch. He handled it well.
I was going to ask how you would react if you when
I
you lost
tried
one
to
that
handle
big.
it like that. I never broke a rod intentionally while I was fishing.
Yeah, I don't think I would have won with that fish, but you know, it's the only one I lost all week, and I can't complain. I could have lost one of those 7s, you know. But yeah, it would have been a good fish to have. I don't know. It's 3 or 4 pounder. You just weren't, it was a little rock pile deal I went to, and the fish were really there in practice, and I thought it was gonna be my main deal. Got a piece of timber. I thought it was gonna be my main deal, and didn't catch them on the first day, didn't catch them on the second day. Went there at the end of the second day and got a bite or 2, and so I started there again the 3rd day. And they wouldn't bite anything. I threw like 5 or 6 different baits, and so finally I had to pick up a shaky head, and of course they bite that, and I just didn't get a good hook in that fish. And I'll try to catch them on anything, I can besides that.
Overall, your satisfaction level with your performance there, Conrad?
Yes, that's good. I mean, I did not have a good practice. I knew what I was. I knew I could go on the spawning cuts and get bites and stuff like that. And, when you're fishing Conroe, it's not a numbers lake. You're not fishing for numbers. They're good fish, generally. It seems like when they bite. There's just not a lot of, you don't get a lot of bites like this lake. It's got a lot more fish, it seems like. Used to, anyways. I don't know about it now.
Final question, pretty solid start to the season as far as finishing highly.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. But I mean, today, if I don't catch them, I could fall a lot. But I am happy with the top 50 regardless. I'm locked into that. So I'm really happy for that. I mean, I didn't have a good practice here either, and I don't think a lot of guys did. It's just the fish are tough right now, and here in Conroe, both what happened. I think one of the main deals is we had a really, really warm winter, and it drug the spawn out for so long. And generally, if it just got cold all winter long, and then this fish made a push in late February, March to all come up at the same time, they'd all be doing the same thing by now. And they're not. They're doing all kinds of different things, so it really spreads the fish out. And when you do find some fish, there's not too many of them doing any one thing, and you just don't get as many bites. So I think that's a lot the story of this tournament and last one.
James Elam, a lot of progress in his 3 years of the Bassmaster Elite Series. Last year made the classic, I think, 22nd, 23rd place in Toyota Bassmaster Angler of the Year points last year. Second place standing right now as we started today.
I agree with what he said there. This mild winter, you think it would help the fishing, but it just, the better years are when we have a good cold winter and those fish, most of them move offshore, and then when it starts warming, they come up all at once.
But I thought I'd be able to catch them on in this tournament and lean on every day, and it was okay the first day. I caught 2 weighers there, 3-pounders, and I lost a 3-pounder there, and I missed like 3 or 4 bites, because they were just biting funky that day. And just after that day, it seemed like they've kind of vacated that place, and caught 1 there this morning, and that was it. I think it had a lot to do with the shad spawn. It was a little high spot that there were
A lot of people in there this morning.
Yeah.
Local tournaments, I think.
There's a lot of boats. There's some boats in here too. I'm hoping the afternoon deal that I got, there won't be too many over there. It's on the other side of the lake, and I don't think it's as popular, and I didn't see any over there yesterday, so. But there's no telling. I'm sure there'll be some guys over there. Just have to fish around them. It changes the tournament. You gotta fish a little differently. But after last year, I was ready for that when we came here. It's just something to expect for sure.
John Cruz with a 4+ has just got a limit near 15 pounds of climbing our top 3.
John Cruz had a good day 1.
One digging down there by himself. See, we're about 82 feet from where they probably, a couple of the ones that might bite are.
Speaking of leaders, Jason Christie just caught a 2+, and he's got 11 and has just unofficially taken our Bass Track lead.
Don't have a camera with Jason Christie. We did have yesterday. Don't know if he's doing the same thing, but yesterday he was doing something that reminded you of the way a lot of people used to fish Toledo Bend, back in a little creek.
Exactly right, Tommy. Fishing the northwest area, not necessarily a corner, but of that general area where the first few times I came to Toledo Bend 20 years ago, a lot of fish were caught up there, and it seemed the population got better down the lake as years progressed, because there was grass up there back then, and then there's been no grass up there for a long, long time. But I like what he's doing, because certainly there's a population of fish there. It might be less fish, but there's also less fishermen. So if he gets to keep running those pockets and catching fish that only he's fishing for, it's a good chance he's going to be somebody that's in the hunt come Sunday. I hope the service gets better there, but I'm not feeling too good about that area.
It was pretty scarce, pretty scant yesterday. He's taking the lead again from Jamie Hartman, who's not yet to move out to the spot where we can pick him up. Steve Bowman has sent us a little bit of information of the type of thing he's fishing back in that spot, and we'll maybe have a look at that a little bit later. Get some more insight into what he's doing, the New York angler who's been the man on top this second day.
Tell me, why does the Carolina rig get such a bad rap? I hear Jacob talking about that earlier? How low can you go to throw a Carolina? Iaconelli caught, what was it, 9.2, 9.3, almost, 9, 10 pounder.
Couple of sevens as well. 6 and a 7.
Some huge fish, guys that had great finishes. But for some reason, guys act like it's a disgrace to throw one. I don't get it. He'd be doing a seminar on Carolina rig if he catch a couple of good ones.
Oh yeah, that's what we need. Show us the subtleties of the Carolina rig. Maybe that's a problem. There's not enough subtleties for him. He needs more of a more of a puzzle to unlock.
Davey, why does it seem like Toledo Bend, maybe this year more than other years, is fishing like Florida? I heard Dave Mercer mention that to Aaron Martins yesterday. Aaron caught like a 7-pounder and then had like a bunch of 2-pounders with it. It's almost like a Florida limit where you get one big one, but you don't have a lot to go with it. Why does it seem like that this year it's more of that instead of more of the getting 2 or 3 of them with it?
I think a lake like Toledo Bend that fluctuates, the depth of the lake fluctuates a lot, and you have years where you don't have a whole lot of cover in the water. That age class of fish doesn't do as well because they get eaten up by birds of prey and, you know, just all these different things. So you might miss a year or two age class. There'll be some fish in that age class, but not others. But here at Toledo Bend, there's a lot of these smaller fish because just a couple years ago, the water was really, really high. When we were here last year, as a matter of fact, that was one of them. The water was 2.5 feet higher than it is here now. And a lot higher percentage of those fingerlings, those bass fry will survive. So you'll have on any body of water, you'll have some age classes that just don't do as well. I hope it's not because what he was saying, the fillets around the boat ramps.
No, and like you mentioned earlier, I believe it was day one when we shot a video in studio with Zona, you said that it goes in cycles. Sam Rayburn goes on the uptrend while Toledo goes down, and Toledo goes on the uptrend and gets the national attention, you know, so.
A lot of that has to do with the water level. It'll be a negative thing for a little while for a place to be low, but then you have that shallow area, once those bushes, the trees, the willows, all those things really grow and get thick, and then when that water does get back high, it's just a great thing. You have a great population of fish after that. Mother Nature it's great. Kind of takes care of all that stuff.
Yeah, the fishermen, I think, generally like the extremes of Mother. You want a nice, good, cold winter. You want a little drought where things can get started and then a flood to clean things out. It's,
absolutely.
It's the sort of willy-nilly winters that kind of give you fits, right?
Them tweeners.
Yeah, tweeners. Going on full speed out there on Toledo Bend today. A lot of movement up and down that leaderboard. We've had a change about every 45 minutes in there. Take a look at the way it's shaping up right now by a Bass Track. Jason Christie, a good limit in the boat now, and he's taking over the lead from Jamie Hartman by ounces. A virtual tie between those two. John Cruz had a quick start on day number 1, having a quick start on day number 3 as well. A lot more good fish catching today. The likes of this man, Casey Ashley, who had the best day yesterday. Jacob Wheeler.
Start it, baby. Yeah!
Very good, very early. James Elam scoring with a good keeper right there. Claims he's not getting too many bites. At least we got to see one of them. I like that.
You betcha, you betcha. Jacob Wheeler and Casey Ashley both around a lot of bait, different depths, but boy, Jacob Wheeler got it going. Got it going this morning. We put a trolling motor down. He said, we ain't playing today. So, and he backed it up. Casey Ashley slower on the spinner bait around a lot of shad.
Right there.
Jacob throwing a buzz bait, hooking them up.
Now the weigh-in coming up. We talked to Dave Mercer earlier. Dave will be leading that weigh-in from Cypress Bend Park. Always a well-attended, a big event, these parks during this time of year. And day 3 weigh-in is huge. 12 guys only will emerge from that with a shot at the trophy. Starts today, 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Bassmaster.com. We'll weigh them, get them down to 12, and get them set for the championship day. We'll be right back after this break.
The Bassmaster Elite at Toledo Bend is brought to you by Show Rotella, Yamaha, Triton Boats, Toyota, Power Pole, and by Skeeter Boats.
Man, it's slow today.
Yep.
Mom, I caught a fish.
Good job, sweetie.
Hey, what kind of lure is that?
It's a Livingston. They have electronic bait fish sounds that activate as soon as they hit the water. Easiest way to catch a fish.
Hey, thanks.
If you love bass fishing, then show your support by joining B.A.S.S. today. Since 1968, B.A.S.S. has been serving bass fishing enthusiasts with information and tournament coverage that make you a better angler. When you sign up today, you'll join over 500,000 outdoorsmen who love bass fishing. With your membership, you'll receive every issue of Bassmaster magazine, plus $50 in free gear, including a membership tackle bag, B.A.S.S. cap, plus more. Log on to Bassmaster.com to join Bass today.
You know that feeling you get when you save money on parts without having to jump through any hoops, track points, or make a bunch of extra trips to the store? Yeah, that's the one. Introducing Speed Perks from Advance Auto Parts, a rewards program for guys who love getting under the hood. No cards, no points, no nonsense.
You're watching the Bassmaster Elite at Toledo Bend, being brought to you live by Power Pole.
Bassmaster Classic is done. These guys are back in the office, so to speak, back at their day jobs, being Bassmaster Elite Series guys, the greatest anglers in the world competing towards the circuit. We're on the third stop of 2017. Day number 3. These tournaments are going by very, very fast. Jason Christie, the man on top right now, just a little edge over Jamie Hartman, the New York angler, the rookie. Doing very, very well this season on the Bassmaster Elite Series. John Cruz making his biggest splash of the year so far. Jacob Wheeler, we got a camera on him. We've watched him today with a quick start. Others moving up, Brandon Polinick, Randy Howell. Casey Ashley had a great day yesterday and got a lot of potential today, wouldn't you say, David?
He does. I really like the area he's in, the cover, the bait, all that sort of thing. And he said he found these fish yesterday afternoon and caught that 20-plus pound bag. So a lot of good stuff to come from Casey Ashley today, I think.
We got a camera on Todd Faircloth and Jamie Hartman. We have not been able to dial that in just yet as they make a move, as they get out closer, maybe to the open water, to the main channel. We'll be doing a lot better there.
Yesterday, both of those guys moved out later in the day.
Yeah. Back out to James Elam.
Bass Track reports Christie with a 3.5 pounder. Caught up another pound at least. And he is one of our boats who's the farthest north.
Yep.
Brett Height still has not caught but one fish, and he's not anywhere on our Bass Track map that I can find him.
But you do know he's caught one fish?
Said one fish on his report, yeah.
Okay. James Elam on the left, Casey Ashley on the right. Oh, there you go.
Biggin. Not a big one, but a good one. Yeah.
Nice.
at 3. Thank you. Proud to retie. All right.
James Elam with his third keeper started the day right up to second place and had fallen down as far as 10th place, as the other field moved forward. But James Elam looking like things are looking up. He says, I'm not getting many bites, kind of like Conroe. It's, they're good ones. That was a good one.
Exactly like Conroe, Tommy. Talking to him last night, he said, I'm just not getting a lot of bites, but I did catch those 3 5-pounders. Well, you don't have to get a lot of bites when you catch the 3 5-pounders. He's so poised, and he was acting the same way in the Bassmaster Classic. He lost the fish on the final day early on and kept his cool, but he's fishing very similar, using a little different bait, it looks like, here this week, but he's fishing just offshore, just a little bit, not way off. He was doing the same thing at Conroe. I like his chances.
All right, James Elam looking good there. We're going to take you back to Cypress Bend Park here, where Triton on the line, where our master of ceremonies for every Bassmaster Elite Series weigh-in, Dave Mercer, standing there. This is a big day for Dave Mercer. He does a lot of work, puts together a lot of stuff that is interesting for us to watch on Bassmaster Live, and I know he's got a special guest right now. How about the reveal right now, Dave?
Well, thanks for all the pressure there, because I generally don't put anything interesting together, but I have booked the Toledo Bend Hammer, and a guy who we're very shocked to have here, I'm sure, because a 2-time winner here. When you come to Toledo Bend, I mean, you can't have a Bassmaster event without this guy, and he's going to help us break down the action. Let's bring him out right now. Dean the Machine Rojas, 2 wins here on Toledo Bend, and a much different Toledo Bend this time around. I mean, in so many ways. And it's easy to say that, but really we've seen it, statistically, it's a different tournament. It doesn't feel like a traditional Toledo Bend tournament. Is that just the time of year, or what's your opinion, Dean?
Well, I think it's a variation of a lot of things. I think it's the weather. They've had a real mild winter here, so they're far along on their spawn. They've probably been spawning here for 2.5 months. Last year we had a lot of high water, as you know. It's 3 feet down from now, so there's not a lot of cover in the water. And I think a lot of it too is the fishing pressure too. There's a lot of people fishing this lake. When bass made it #1, it became a very, very popular lake. I remember when I won in 2001 and even in 11, it was just amazing to watch, how many more people came here, and the dynamic of the lake has changed in a sense that, like we talked about earlier, they've planted so many Florida strain bass in here now that you have to have a big fish. You have to have a 7, 8, or 9 pounder, to put yourself in contention to win. When I had it in 11, I had a 7 pounder almost every day, and I needed that big fish to carry me all the way through the whole way into the fourth day. So it's changing and it's evolving. It's still Toledo Bend. It's still an awesome fishery. It still is big, and the wind still blows here every time we come here. It never stops. I think the barometric pressure changes every time bass comes rolling into town with all that positive energy, and it just continues to blow out of the south and, of course, out of the north, too. So,
talk to me about that. I mean, that win in with Swindle, I mean, we learned that week, how important fish care is, because Swindle, had a, fish care penalty in that tournament and squeaked it out by an ounce, and I gotta throw it on the record, one of the best sellies ever, one of the best celebration fist pumps, Heisman Trophy poses. When did that come to your head? Was that a spare of the moment? Because I gotta believe, when I see a move like that, I imagine myself at home in front of the mirror practicing it.
Well, it's something that was sporadic. It was brought to my attention the night before. If I did the Olympian pose, was something that hasn't been done up on stage, and just kind of different. I get really excited, very emotional when I'm up there on stage. It runs deep into my blood and in my passion, and so I want to share it with everyone. So trying to be creative, trying to do different things. I love excitement up on the stage. I love the fist pumps. I love all the all the great things that come with that. So. That was the pose, and I get a lot of questions on that, on where it came from and so forth, but just trying to have some fun up there.
It was a lot of fun, and I always enjoy my time on stage with you. But, Dean, one of the things you mentioned on it is how You guys as anglers and Bass as an organization and all the great groups around here that promote this fishery have really exploded this fishery. Talk to me about the positives and negatives of that. There's a positive, obviously it's great to have all these people coming to this lake that they saw you guys catch fish on, but I'm sure there can be a double-edged sword there. I mean, it's no different than hosting a fishing show. You kind of want to give spots away, but not give them away.
Yeah, the positive side of it is, there's a lot of high school stuff that's going on around here, a lot of college, and it's important to get people outside and to get them out fishing early. And this lake is a great training ground for it. I mean, you could go up north and fish shallow, throw up bushes all day long, or you could run down south and fish grass and clear water. It has a lot of great things that the lake offers for any style of fishing. But for most, the people that come here, the local community obviously, reaps of everything that comes with all the people buying gas and food and real estate. You see more real estate, more houses, more docks being built around the lake. It's becoming part of society in a way. I always would say Toledo Bend was the land that time forgot, because there's places here that you go, and this is 5, 6, 7 years ago, where it's just like you wouldn't even think that there was even anything going on. It's just so backwoods and so rural that I think that it was part of the ambiance that you loved about coming here, and the great things and the great feelings that you get coming out here. Obviously with the fishing being so great and everything, the way that things are rolling out now, there's a lot more pressure on the lake. There's a lot more people that are fishing the lake, obviously. So it's getting some attention right now. It's hard on the environment. It's hard on the fish. That's why we have to keep talking about catch and release and being able to keep the everything there for the future to come.
It is a tremendous fishery, but as I said, much different this time around. Do you believe, talking to a lot of the anglers, one guy, Casey said to me yesterday and again this morning when we talked, he said, man, I found something at 1:30. We saw the big day he had yesterday. He's catching them again today. Outside of him, he's going to be kind of my obvious choice, but do you believe that anybody has really keyed into the pattern right now? Like even a Jamie Hartman, our leader, I talked to him this morning. I said, how do you think you're going to do? And he said, really, I had such a bad pre-fish, and I'm just fishing on instinct, and the fish is coming from so many different areas. It's not a pattern. Is there anyone fishing a pattern out there? And do you believe if there isn't, will that what happens with our eventual champion, or is somebody going to stick handle their way through this tournament like we've seen up to the halfway point?
Well, I think that the lake is changing. It's evolving. I mean, the days of being consistent and doing the same thing over and over and over again for 4 days, those days are gone. I think with the conditions that we were faced with coming into this event, Sunday night having that huge storm come rolling in, and then the temperature dropping, blowing out of the south during practice, and then north, for 2 days, and now it's blowing out of the south again. So it's just a constant washing machine effect, because there's so many things going on. I think the guys are just grasping at something where they think they've got something, and then all of a sudden the wind shifts, and then all of a sudden it changes. So a lot of it has to do with just being open-minded and willing to try different things. I mean, this is such a big body of water that you can really run anywhere you want and fish, a different style, a different technique, and that's the beauty of Toledo Bend. But I think Casey has a great, if the fish are coming to him and he's able to adapt to it. We all know what Casey can do. I mean, he's won multiple tournaments, won the Classic there at Hartwell, and when he gets on a roll like that, especially if he's throwing a jig around, he's going to catch him without a doubt. And so I think the tournament started today. I really do. I think today, within the top 15, you're going to see somebody bust a bag, and it's going to go into tomorrow, and then eventually win the event.
Unfortunately, there's no mulligans in the sport of fishing, but I know you'd like a mulligan on this one. At this point, when you look back, is there anything that you would change with the way you fished this tournament? I mean, they generally say hindsight's 20/20. Is there anything you would have changed, or was it just getting that bigger bite?
No, I know what it takes to win here. So I went into this event, to win the event. And I felt that with the conditions the way they were at, with what I was able to deal with, the high winds we had in practice, and just trying to figure everything out. I mean, I had them located. It wasn't like, I had a bad practice. I had everything evolving. Everything was setting up, which I've done 100 times before, and it just changed. And what's unique about this is that I've never seen this happen on Toledo Bend, where they've just changed so quickly like that. And it reminds me a lot on fishing in Florida. And of course, we have a lot more Florida straining here now too. Any kind of mild barometric pressure change, any kind of change in the weather, it affects them in a weird way, and to where they will, they'll move, or they just won't bite. And a lot of the fish I saw, they were real skittish. They wouldn't move. They would just bolt, whereas the day before they were locked on. So what changes that? How does that? What is genetically in them that makes them run away one minute and the other one want to bite and be aggressive? So those are some of the things that I have to deal with out there, and I just missed it. I was on a good area that had a lot of fish in it, and they just didn't bite. And I have no regrets. I mean, I went in it where I felt like to put myself in a position to win, and so we'll move on for the next one.
I know you will. You always rally, and we always joke about it, but you always come back in these events. You're quite often, even if you have a bad first day, you get them better, and that shows the true pro that you are. You figure them out. So I want to, we've got all sorts of tournament anglers watching online, and I want to quiz you on a few things. Decision making on the water. One of the best to do it, obviously. I'm looking here along this shoreline just before, moments ago, before this wind started blowing, you could see really far in this water, and we have a lot of anglers talk about the water getting dirty with the mud and blowing in on there. Tournament angler, you're fishing an event on Toledo Bend, you roll into your spot, you see that. Do you continue to fish that area, even though it's got dirty, trying to figure out a way to make those fish bite? Or when you see that watercolor, do you scrap it and go to plan B?
Well, I think that you have to give it a chance, and you may have to change techniques. Maybe not so much catching them the way you were. Maybe you have to slow down. It's not more of a visual thing for them. They've got to pick up on the vibration of the bait and key in on it. So you probably have to fish a little bit slower in the area. They're not going to vacate the area. I mean, they're going to be in the general vicinity of where you're at. So if you're fishing a pocket or something, they may move out to the points or the secondary points or in the gut. If they were up on the on the bank and so forth. So, but if it gets to a point where you haven't had a bite in 25 minutes or so, or 20 minutes, or 15 or 10, for me it would be 10. Because you got to keep moving. But it's just but you have to fish where the weather will allow you to fish too. I mean, if it's getting that muddy, obviously there's a lot of wind, and a lot of water moving and a lot of wave action to create the mud. In the sense that we had the big storm on Sunday night, it brought all that stuff in, and a lot of the backs of the creeks got real muddy, and it pushed a lot of that water out, and finally, up until about the third day of practice, it was just starting to clear up. Now, don't get me wrong, this lake is big enough, it can handle all the water and everything, and the wind blows here every day, it seems like, and it's amazing how fast the water clears up. I mean, you may look down here and there, it's a lot of disturbance and everything, but if it slicks off, you could probably see down another 4 feet. It's amazing the sediment of how it rolls and how it moves around and cloudies the water, but how quickly it can clear up. So you have to keep that in mind also, and say, hey, well, it's been a day or an afternoon or whatever it might be. I might want to check and see what that. Obviously, the sun's a big deal too. I mean, the higher the sun is, the better light penetration you're going to have. You'll be able to see what's going on, underneath the water.
Let's talk about water clarity with sight fishing, because I talked about it earlier in the weekend. My opinion about water clarity, and one of the reasons I think Toledo Bend is such a special lake, it's almost, in my opinion, the perfect sight fishing watercolor, in my opinion. But you're a much better sight angler than I ever will be. So I want to ask you, and what I mean by that is everybody thinks of crystal clear, gin clear water, but when the water's gin clear, on Lake Erie, when you can see 30 feet, they can also see you. And, this 3 to 4 feet of visibility, to me, it screams the perfect sight fishing watercolor. What is your favorite sight fishing watercolor to fish in?
Well, you make a great point, talking about that on, the how far down you can see in the water. Growing out west, we have those clear waters, and you got to stay way back. But, going into events, especially like a sight fishing event, for me, going into an Elite Series event, I don't necessarily go to the clearest water because I know everybody else is going to do that. So I always go to where it's hard to see them. Okay, I know what to look for. I know what, I can see down there pretty darn good. And so I can see different variations or colorations down there. And, all the guys are going to miss them. You have to be really looking for them and know exactly what it is. So I would prefer to have the dirtier side or the stained side, believe it or not, in the sense that it's not that easy to catch them, you know, and not everybody's going to be there. So in like a 3 or 4 day event, man, that's golden, man. Those are the jewels right there, because you know, and there's nobody up there, and you know you can just run. Well, that's the way it was setting up here. I wasn't down there in the clear water. I was up here in the dirtier water, stained water, hard to see them, and I really felt good about what I was doing. I didn't have anybody around me. It was shaping up to be the freight train was coming, man. The horn was blowing. I was excited.
The feeling you just expressed right there about having a good pre-fish coming into this event, I got to ask you, do you think that affected our entire field? Not your feeling, but their feelings, because we've been to Toledo Bend. This is the 5th time in 7 years. Mm-hmm. Every time it's been so good. And I'm not just talking about the person that won, numbers-wise. Everybody's catching limits, lots of fish. This time, you heard a lot of anglers on stage talking about having 6 bites or 7 bites. When we come somewhere where you guys roll in and you can't wait to get there, Toledo Bend, you're going to knock their lights out, and it does throw a curveball. Do you think that throws people off a little more? Say we were at Sabine River. Everybody expects to go to Sabine River and grind out for that limit. Yeah. But coming here, they don't expect to work that hard. Do you think that mentally makes it a lot tougher on the field?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what separates the great fishermen from the good fishermen and your average ones. And I hate to say average because all the guys on the elites are all hammers. I mean, they can all catch them. And it's just what it is just staying in touch with what's going on and being current and always evaluating the situation, evaluating the lake, evaluating the wind, and everything that goes along with that. And so for me, I always try to make sure that I'm as current as I possibly can be. I always expect it. At times, I mean, even when I started practice, I felt like Toledo Bend, man, they're gonna be biting. Well, after the first hour and a half, and I don't have a bite, and I'm like, well, what's going on here? This is not typical. But I think that shows you that the changes of the lake that's happening, and the increased pressure that the lake is sustaining right now, and so you have to work harder, and so it kind of set me back a little bit in a sense to regroup and say, okay, well, we know it's not going to be that easy, so it's a time to go out there and okay, let's think about what we're going to do, and we're going to focus on baits that I know we're going to get bit and catch fish on doing. So for me, water temperature was a big thing. Looking at the water temperature when we first got here, I didn't know anything about that. So then I evaluated the situation of where I wanted to go, and so that's where I established my pattern for the week. And it didn't work out. It didn't work out for a lot of the other guys too. So it's just a deal where you hit on the right area. You caught some fish, but the lake is changing. It's changing. It's not like it used to be.
And I guess having that history in a lot of situations can be a negative if you can't lock it out. One of the things we've seen early in this season, 3 events in, is that if I'm Dean Rojas, Kevin Van Dam, all these superstars of our sport, my job just got a lot tougher. I mean, you look at the Elite Series rookies, every single year it gets stronger and stronger. And one of the patterns, you got to get Jamie Hartman, Jacob Wheeler, who openly have, they hit the road and they really focus on one thing, and that's fishing. They're on the water every single day. How do you, with every commitment that you have on your shoulders, sponsor-wise, we joked about it yesterday with Davey, the ironic thing about being a pro angler is you work so hard to make it somewhere, you get there, and then your hardest job is to stay on the water because how do you compete with that? And, or can you? Is it just those years of knowledge? How do you do that? And what is it like going into an event knowing it's not going to get easier this year, it gets harder every year?
I don't think it gets harder every year. It's all in the attitude, and it's all in how I approach it. And you see a lot of these rookies come in on the first year, and it's like having a brand new girlfriend. Everything's new and exciting and fun and everything. Man, I'm on the elites, and you got all this positive energy going on, and everything's good. And so when you have that, you catch a few fish, and then you go ahead and you win or you do well, and you're like, man, I can do this. So it continues on the momentum and the excitement and all that, and that builds and builds and builds, and they have a fantastic year. You talk to the guys who've done this for 3 or 4 years that were a rookie 3 years ago, it's a grind. It is a flat out grind. I mean, the excitement, the smell off the road is gone, man. It is far gone. Now it's sustaining yourself on the toughest playing field in professional bass fishing, without a doubt. And at that point, it's survival for a lot of them. You see a lot of people coming in, and they do real well, and then they just fade on out, or they get laxed. They don't have the intensity, they don't have the passion because they feel like they've made it. The journey was all about the journey and not about, sustaining and performing at the highest professional level here on the Bassmaster Elite Series trail. So for me, doing this for 17 years, I still have a lot of passion, a lot of fire, a lot of excitement, and a lot of just want, to compete and to continue. I have lots of goals. I set goals every year, and that's what keeps me motivated, and it keeps me wanting to be a better fisherman. And I work at it all the time. I don't want to be one of those anglers that has a closed mind, and you see guys as they get older, they just kind of tunnel vision, and they want to catch them their way, and that's the only way they want to catch them. And so for me, it's always been about, trying to learn new things and new techniques and keeping an open mind, because these kids coming in, they know how to do it all. They know how to sight fish, they know how to deep crank, they know how to flip, they know how to do everything. So for me, I have to stay current. And for me, that's a big thing that I work on every year in the off season is thinking about new techniques. How would I want to approach this? But not deviating too far from my experience, because that in itself is 90% of what I am. It's just in being able to adapt to it and change and to be current, to stay at this level, because it is so difficult to sustain, this type of competing year in and year out with the competition. I mean, I love the fact that Kevin is still around. I love the fact that we have a lot of guys that are when I was, before I got here, were here and were superstars, and now I'm fishing against them all the time, and that's just awesome. And I love, he motivates me. A lot of guys motivate me, even though they don't even know it. They motivate me to get out of bed every morning and to put it on them.
I think you motivate a lot of people. One of the things I love about you is you're always positive. You never kicking stones, and he will positively turn it around at our next event and not be hanging out with you here on Saturday. But I got to ask you, after that incredible celebration, what do you have planned for your next victory?
We'll keep it a surprise. We've already been talking about it. Wow. We even talked about it here because the practice was going so well. But we'll wait. You'll see.
He's practicing. Let's have a look at that incredible celebration. I love it, and I know I'll see many more of them. And we're going to see some celebrating this afternoon at our weigh-in. Moving day in the Bassmaster Elite Series. We started with 110, cut it down to 51. But for today's weigh-in, coming up Saturday at 3 o'clock, we are going to cut 12 anglers at third stop Bassmaster Series right here. Bassmaster Elite Series, Toledo Bend, presented by a Lodge. It's a throwdown, a showdown, a big fish mowdown.
Facts matter. All monofilament is not the same. Berkley is the strongest, smoothest, most dependable monofilament line in the world. Why would you risk your fishing trip to a line that's made who knows where just to save a buck? Berkley has been making and perfecting trilene in America for over 75 years. I spool nothing less than the best. That's Berkley trilene, and that is a fact.
Champions aren't born, they're created. Every turn of the prop, every mile on the lake, every cast of the rod, every fish they catch, and every pound they weigh. It builds who they are. It builds a legacy.
Now for your 2016 Bassmaster Angler of the Year!
Hey, thanks, Dave. Out of office? Oh, man.
Hi, this is Skeet.
Skeet, out of office?
Dude, don't be mad because I thought of it.
What?
I gotta go. I got someone on the other line. Go to teamgtfishing.com to check out my real job.
We're supposed to be working!
I am working!
Is there a place where the underwater images are the clearest you've ever seen? We're seeing every fish, we're seeing every detail of structure, and where every bottom contour was visible, where whatever you wanted to see below the surface was real. Do you want to go? Structure Scan 3D is the future of fishing. We can show you how to find fish faster and catch fish in a way you've never experienced. Let's get them.
The competition is fierce and the prizes are huge. The only thing missing is you. Fantasy Fishing presented by Toyota. Sign up for free and face fans from across the nation. Grand prize winner receives a Triton Yamaha package including a Triton 189 TRX. MSRP of $37,293. The classic and each individual elite event winner will receive $2,500 Bass Pro Shops gift cards, with the runner-up receiving a GoPro Hero 4 black camera. Sign up and pick your team today at Bassmasterfantasy.com.
You're watching the Bassmaster Elite at Toledo Bend, being brought to you live by Power Pole.
Bassmaster Live, another 30. Bassmaster Live, another 30 minutes.
Coming your way till we take our break, and we'll be back at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, going all the way to 3:30 Eastern, with part 2 of Bassmaster Live, Day 3. Toledo Bend, the Bassmaster Elite Series 2017. Got a lot of good stuff and some much better pictures today. Very encouraged by that, Davey.
Stay tuned. Casey Ashley caught the biggest string yesterday, and he said he caught them after 1 o'clock.
Some surprises all day on the leaderboard. Here's the latest one right there. How about Idaho's Brandon Polinick bumping up ahead of Jason Christie, who had just taken the lead away from Jamie Hartman. So a lot of movement out there today. That's what you like to see. A lot of guys joining the fray, joining the battle there to be the top guy when 3 days are all done with. Again, the main thing is to be where Alton Jones is or better. 12th place will get you a chance to fish tomorrow and get one of those important wins on the Bassmaster Elite Series. James Elam, we saw him catch a good one or two. Jamie Hartman waiting for our first look at him. He'll move out before too much time has gone up. I hope the same thing is true for Todd Faircloth. Todd Faircloth has gotten passed by a little bit here today, so he's got some ground to make up. And I know he expressed a little confidence to you last night.
He caught his fish in the afternoon yesterday. Jacob Wheeler has made his move early this morning a lot better than yesterday. And then Casey Ashley said he caught his after 1 o'clock yesterday, over 20 pounds. So we're certainly excited about watching him this afternoon. Got good service with Casey.
Jacob Wheeler on the left, James Elam on the right.
Brandon pulled in a 6-pounder and then called up again. He's got the biggest bag of the day so far, about 17 pounds.
Wow, pretty strong.
Coming from 8th place, 5.5 back of the leader when he started the day.
Might be hearing his trademark phrase tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Got some trivia on what that is?
Yeah. What do you think? I think it is. I know. I got my ideas about what his trademark.
Come on with it.
Oh my God!
I bet he.
That's wow.
I bet he said that when he just caught that 6-pounder.
Oh, you know we missed that. Interesting to hear Dean's take on Toledo Bend. The ups and downs and changes since he won, before and after.
It certainly is a changing place. To think that we've been here 5 times in the last 7 years, not many places you can go to and not have run-ins, so to speak, on the water, because the same patterns usually prevail. But every single time we come to Toledo Bend, it's a different lake. It's less water, less cover in the water this year than just a year ago, 2.5 feet, which is a lot of water on 180,000 acres.
It's always been changing. They started filling this lake up back in 1969. Back in that day, for the average person around here, 95% of them, a trip to the lake mean getting a big old metal ice chest full of bluegills or red ears or big crappie. But at that time, they started filling, and this in a little lake called Merval on a tributary of Sabine, they started managing a little bit for bass. And these people, a few of them started getting a taste of catching these big top predator fish. That's when bass, and of course the start of tournament fishing started. It was just the perfect storm. And this place was right at the center.
Little things, I was going to say that was a big thing, but in the picture of where our sport is now, just things like that we wouldn't be sitting here. I don't know, tournament fishing where it may or may not be, but something that happens in such a remote area of Texas, Louisiana, changes thousands and thousands of people's lives.
Absolutely.
Davey, I got a question from a Todd Woods.
Come on with it.
How much homework goes into water level and temp versus bait selection when you're approaching a tournament and you're planning it out?
Before the tournament begins?
Yeah.
Well, both, but first and foremost, especially on a lake like Toledo Bend, I want to learn about the water level because Dean talked about it a lot, the way it changes. A lot of bushes in the water, not so much cover in the water this year. The cover that you do have in the water is the timber, which is deeper. A lot of these fish don't want to be quite that deep right now because the shad are shallow spawning, but they're more exposed. So I want the water level and the water clarity. Can't find out the temperature for a month unless you can find it online somewhere nowadays. You can on certain fisheries, but the off limits period, a lot of times we don't know the water temperature on a certain body of water until you put your boat in that first morning of practice. Then when I have those things, then I look at bait selection because the water clarity at Toledo Bend, sometimes visibility might be 5 feet and other times it'd be 1 foot, and that definitely would change the baits that I might try to throw. Good stuff though, good stuff. Good
Got another one from Brett Rakel. What hurts a fishery more, these big bass tournaments or the weekend anglers keeping fish, like we already talked about a little bit?
Well, the big bass tournaments, if they release those fish, I don't think it really hurts the fishery. It makes those fish a little tougher to catch, but at least they're still swimming around there, and you got pull out your tricks like Jacob Wheeler did yesterday to catch those. The story I'm sure a lot of folks viewing right now didn't hear Dave Mercer talk about the big bass the first day that Jason Christie caught. Didn't reveal the exact area. That wouldn't be fair to Jason Christie. But they had researched it, didn't tell us the exact area, but the fish was caught a year and 2 days later, very close to where it was caught. So that's a testament right there of, catching a big bass isn't a bad thing. If you release that fish, someone else catch it another day.
Homing bass, it went back to where it was caught the first time.
Yep. And there's been a lot of studies done on that. Some fish I totally believe go back to where they've lived most of their life, and some fish they're like people. They can adjust right where you drop them off.
We're going to Rayburn a little later on this year, and that's one of the big. That was one of the big experimental places for our bass tracking experiment a few years back, and we had several bass that they'd release them a thing and track them all the way across the big part of the lake. Wow. I mean, in a matter of just hours.
It's incredible.
All the way back over there.
Jamie Hartman caught his third, and he clipped up past Christie there.
I think we saw last year, I think I heard that there were 3 10-pounders caught in the same creek at Toledo Bend, and they had been caught there, within that year last year since they started marking this trophy. So I don't know if it's just Toledo Bend fish, but like you guys said, they seem to just like the certain area of the lake, so they go back to it.
The studies have been done all over the country, and I think it's
crazy.
The consistency it's inconsistent. Some fish certainly just go straight back to where they probably were hatched, and then others I've heard studies and people that I totally trust. You release a fish under a dock 10 miles from where it's caught, and 10 days later it's still at that same dock.
Yeah.
Mentioned yesterday when James Overstreet was doing the telemetry stuff that they would track how far that bass moved. I thought there was some that didn't move very far. They maybe crossed the lake and come back up, and not tons of movement on some of them.
A little bit of both, It's just there was no hard and fast rule for them, but it was amazing what some of them did.
I thought there'd be a big in that brush pile. I seen one big one over there yesterday.
We're talking a lot about this place because it is one of the extraordinary places on the face of the earth for the sport that we love so much, the bass fishing and the hummingbird lay of the lake. You take another quick look at that. That's what Toledo Bend looks like from the sky. 185 acres, or 180 acres if you believe the graphic there. I know, thousands of acres.
Been written 188 acres.
Yeah. Can be as wide as 10 miles across, is 65 miles long. Got a little less water, a couple of feet less water than was here last year, and we've noted yesterday that takes a good bit of cover out of the equation.
It really does. We're looking at an area that you have a lot of contour here, but there's areas, especially on the north end of this lake, that are really, really flat. And 2 feet of water extends a creek or a flat, sometimes hundreds and hundreds of yards. Yeah. And it makes it a lot tougher to fish, but it's great for the fish. They can survive when they have all this cover.
Their spawns work out better. Everything's better when you get some of that's the ups and downs of a lake. Or sometimes what makes it stronger.
I love this picture of it being so calm. You don't see this very often. It's a beautiful lake. It's a beautiful lake, but normally not so calm. It can be vicious when you have a north or south wind that gets up above 15 miles an hour.
Took note of what Dean was saying about the Florida strain in here and how they are more susceptible to changes in barometric pressure. I mean, we've now got that south, you know, when you got the wind blowing up from Houston, it's just going to get warmer. It means the pressure is high, so maybe possibility of this thing blowing wide open tomorrow, maybe being the best of all the days, the final day of this.
I totally agree. I think, Tommy, it will definitely be a good fishing day tomorrow. But today's not over. This afternoon, it surprised me not as many sight fishermen caught big fish yesterday afternoon with the calm winds. But I think overall, with that south wind we've got today and tomorrow, it's going to be better this afternoon and all day tomorrow.
So far today, we've seen the starts anyway of some good limits. The 17 pounds, as we mentioned, Brandon Polinick. Almost 15 pounds for John Cruz. Jason Christie with 12 and a half. Not even to the half point of our day yet.
Casey's been in a little bit of a lull.
Here,
let's listen to Jacob.
I'm gonna be so beat up. I won't be able to drag nothing. I'll be shaking and jittering and like.
Perfect for a shaky day.
Hey, you got it. I told Aaron, I said, like, Aaron, you must drink water. No, bro, that's bad for you, bro. No.
He's doing a little Aaron Martin's.
I think that's what we're getting. We're not quite getting enough signal to get the full effect and rate that impression like we like to do.
That's right. Jacob's doing a lot of moving today. We watched him yesterday. Fish different baits, but he wasn't moving around quite as much. Today he's looking for some fish offshore, and wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't find them. One of the few guys I guess the only guy. Casey's not really offshore. I'm saying he's 8 to 10 feet or so where he's fishing. James Elam, very similar to the Classic. We saw him just off the bank, kind of in between the deeper fish and the fish that had been up there spawning. But Jacob's moving around a lot trying to find that school of fish that we have so often seen. People like Kevin Van Dam found last year, the fish that you need to win the tournament.
He's held out the promise to us. If he finds a pile of them like that, can catch one, could be off to the races. It hadn't quite played out that way yet, but something you'd like to see.
I'm surprised Jamie Hartman's still back in that creek today. He moved out yesterday a little sooner, maybe because of the calm winds, but
might be that one big one that he caught
that'll make a guy want to stay around for a while.
Got him tacked down a little bit.
Do you think he could have gone in there to fish early this morning and maybe saw one on the bed and is maybe trying to catch it since
Could
we can't,
be.
you know,
certainly could
tucked
be.
up in the calm area? Total speculation, but you know, with spawning fish in this event, you never know when someone could just randomly see a giant just cruising or locked on.
That's what Aaron Martin said. He caught his 7.7 yesterday. He was just going along the bank, and he spent a half an hour, 4 different baits, and finally she bit. I say happy anniversary to Davey. On your Facebook, I noticed the
what?
You know, the Pluff Mud was today, a year ago.
Oh, that might be part of the reason why I'm sitting right here now.
Now, I'm hoping we get a little of that footage up there. That was
got 6,000 views so far today. I think it's really going. A lot of comments on it.
Good. Yeah. I'm just fishing right now.
So Winyah Bay was 1 year ago. It was this week. I always feel like that was earlier in the season.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah.
I was hoping nobody would remember that, but
Well, I got a trivia question. I read another older article, and I was going to ask Tommy because, of course, you would know Davey. Where has Davey experienced both the agony, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat? One leg, one venue, very close by.
Close by to here?
Wow.
You remember?
Think back
Davey,
a little bit.
What was the nightmare you had on Dardanelle?
And back in the E50 days,
You had to push.
I did. It's the only time the only other time I've missed weigh-in. The only other time I missed weigh-in. And let me remind you, that was not pluff mud.
No.
I could get out and push, and it was not easy.
So you're very sore, rough.
The only 2 times.
Push back in.
That's good stuff, Such. The only 2 times I didn't make it back to weigh-in. The good thing about Winyah Bay, if I can put a positive spin on that, I knew the tide was coming back in. I couldn't get out and push because of the pluff mud, but
sure. You knew it would come to an end at some point.
We saw those socks covered in that stuff.
Yeah.
But you won at Dardanelle.
That's
That's the positive. Let's leave with a positive.
Well, I just
different
remember,
event, but yes.
I just remember getting a call from Davey as I'm collecting bass tracks last year. I get a call from Davey. I'm like, this is weird. Did he already check in? He said, hey, I'm not checking in, but I'm going to text you a video of me on the water. And when I got it and watched it, I was like, oh my gosh. What was it? You didn't get in until dark?
Yeah, it was almost dark when I got back in. I wanted to call and let Trip Weldon and Ronnie, people that I thought would be concerned about my safety, that I was safe, but it would be a while before I got back in. Speaking of the thrill of victory and agony of defeat, haven't been a big social media guy, trying to do a little bit better at that now, but that's the most successful post I've ever made. My agony of defeat.
I can believe that. I can believe that.
170,000 people enjoyed watching me stuck in the pluff mud.
And 6,000 today so far. I loved your comment. I called you about that and got a quote from you, and you had some guys come by and ask you, how the heck did you back up into that?
Yeah. I got a story on that for sure. How'd you get backed up there on that island like that? Backed up? Heck, I came from the other side.
There's a lesson learned there. Everybody likes to see the high and mighty brought down to earth once. Every once
I don't know about high and mighty, but everybody loves to see a crash.
Yes.
They were impressed that you came over from the other side, right?
Yeah. Casey caught those fish early while the shad were up high. Been in a little bit of a lull, but keep in mind what he said on the weigh-in stage yesterday. I found him about 1 o'clock, so he's being patient here. I think that's really good, and he's counting on that afternoon bite with the jig.
Defoe's trying to make up some ground back on the AOI lead. He's got a limit almost near 12, and he's up to 16th place.
That's what we said earlier, the gap had closed, but they were almost odds all the way at the bottom where he can't lose that many points today, but he can gain a whole lot, and where someone like Elam, his nearest pursuer in second, is second in the tournament and can only really fall a lot, if he did.
That's a great point, Ronnie. It's overlooked. If you finish in 52nd place, you're done right there. 51st place, you've got that opportunity to move up the ladder and gain ground towards your classic berth and Angler of the Year. And when I saw Defoe in 41st, I thought about he's got a lot of room to move, and the steady Defoe had confidence he would move up today, and he's doing that.
Well, I think we discussed it last year that, the Bassmaster Classic berths happen on day 3 because you only have certain amount of points. Day 1 leaderboard fluctuates a lot to day 2, but on day 3 it's limited to the top guys, but the guys that are 35th below have so much possible room to move up. And somebody who's in 5th, like we saw Texoma last year, I think Polinick was in 3rd on day 3 starting, and he dropped to 39th, lost 36 points in like 1 day.
The top 5 can only hope to hold on. They're not moving up anywhere. Yeah.
One more fish here, come on.
Sure. We can catch trees. Ain't no dead.
We're about to idle over there to that point here in a second.
My wife just texted and admitted that she's the culprit that posted on my Facebook this morning the anniversary of my train wreck. I'll give her a good hug and kiss when I get home.
There we go. Good thing you got someone in the family that's into that social media stuff, right?
That's right.
Gotta have that.
It's a team. We're a team.
It's a team. It's a team. Everybody's got their job to do.
That's right. Some wives make curses.
That's right.
Some
Be my wife.
social-
She's kind of a social media knowledgeable person, unlike me herself.
So right now, all I'm doing, I isolate the cover. You know, we got the bit, but thing now.
Jacob trying to explain to us what he's doing here. Hopefully we
Yeah.
get this.
Need him to get to a place where we can hear it, because he's
You got the up and down of the waves is almost like
Yeah,
a
that's
sitting and standing kind of deal.
a little bit. Maybe that's what the. He gets turned the right way and maybe gets around a little corner. We'll be doing a lot better there.
I've seen Jacob get hung twice here recently. That can't mention enough that just looking out at the surface of Toledo Bend, it looks much different under that surface. Lots of timber, flooded trees. I think all three of those guys are fishing wood right now. Deeper, some shallower. James Elam seems to be fishing a little shallower, but I heard him mention just a minute ago, or a few minutes ago, that fish he caught was on wood. It's the best available cover. One of the key things that I always look for, bait, be around bait and the best available cover. In a place like Toledo Bend, that available cover can be hydrilla, it can be shoreline bushes, shoreline grass, offshore grass, the hydrilla, or the standing timber. And these three guys that we're watching here that are doing well, obviously, in this tournament, seem to be fishing the wood, the standing timber.
It was very plain to watch Jacob Wheeler yesterday just dragging his rig across every stump as he brought it back in there.
Yep.
Very deliberately.
Something interesting, guys. I just got a message from Alton Jones Jr. He wasn't feeling too great this week, didn't make the cut, and he headed to Sam Rayburn. So work never stops for these guys, especially with how competitive it's getting. You leave an event after getting beat, and you head out to the next lake to pre-practice before it goes off limits. So these guys put in the time for sure.
They do. Never stops. You don't get to stop and eat ice cream when one event ends, especially if you don't have the finish you want. You got to press harder towards the next one.
Guess it helps when the next lake is a place that you can get to in about the time it takes to eat an ice cream cone. That gives you a little leg up.
I don't know. I think I can eat ice cream longer than it takes to drive to Toledo Bend, especially if it's homemade.
Yeah, if it's good stuff.
You could probably get to Rayburn from Toledo faster than you could drive from the dam to where Jason Christie's fishing on the water.
I believe that.
Speaking of Christie, he just caught a 3-pounder and culled up a couple ounces.
Over there.
Wheeler about to move now. Hopefully he's going to get somewhere where we can hear him a little better.
Casey Ashley just pulled up the trolling motor. That's surprising.
Okay.
Game plan.
Defoe might have just moved into the top 12. At 12th, he got a 310.
Next to person they can, and Rojas, they're catching it reeled in, so moving up, but
waiting for Jacob Wheeler to get to the place where we can hear him. That would be good. Give us lots of good material over the past 2 days.
It really does. It's great to have a service with Jacob, because he isn't shy about sharing his tricks and the way he's been catching the fish the last few days.
That's the timetable right there, yeah. We watched them all, 1 through 6, get caught early this morning. That was a lot of fun. Big start for Jacob Wheeler. Probably thought he'd be a little further into the upgrading process by now, but it's been 2.5 hours since he's caught his last keeper, so it's been a little slower than he expected. Nonetheless, what we saw early to start this day was pretty inspiring. That's going to be our power pole replay of the day.
we're keeping up. Start it, baby. Yeah! Start it out. That's what I'm talking about.
Jacob told me the first day went like day 3 did for him. Yesterday, not so much, but today, just like the first day, a limit in the boat really, really quick on the shad spawn, fishing shallow with a buzz bait. And boy, it's fun to throw a buzz bait at any time, especially first thing in the morning on day 3 in a Bassmaster Elite tournament. And the fish we're cooperating with this morning. Like I said, not really the weight that he wanted, but it means so much to have 5 fish.
Right there.
You mentioned that's something not everyone's been able to pull off of getting a limit early on that shad spawn. You have to have something kind of dialed in to get that leg up on the rest of the field to start your day. We're going to take ourselves an hour and a half, as has become our tradition here, an hour and a half break, and come back at 12:30 Eastern Time for another 3 hours. Bassmaster Live, taking you very, very close to weigh-in time here. Weigh-in very important today as we take it down to 12 anglers. Championship on the line. 11:30 Central Time. We'll be back here.
Day number 1. Boom, shakalaka.
Game changer there.
Game changer. The weigh-in, boy, no telling what you're going to see at this weigh-in. Kelly Jordan, we got a Texas guy kicking in with a big, big bass. We got another Texas guy out there we're watching today. Brandon Polinick, the guy who has jumped himself up into the lead of this tournament, right ahead of Jason Christie and this man, Jamie Hartman. We like to see somebody in control, but we also like to see a big free-for-all at the top of the leaderboard, and that's what we got going. See you later.